Hello and welcome to episode 176 of the Happy Hearthstone, the longest running Hearthstone podcast in the history of space and time and cards. I'm your host, Andrew Brown, and of course, we are live today on the scene in Uldum. There is some kind of city that is floating over these ancient tombs that have not been touched in centuries, millennia, I don't even know how long, but we got a tip from a Gadgetzanian that there was something that was about to go down. And Steve, I feel like these people that are floating in the air are in for some severe trouble. Or do you think there might be even bringing trouble here?
I don't know, but I want to start this off with a review of sand. I hate sand.
Why would you hate sand? That's not a good
It's a Star Wars reference, so come on.
Oh.
That was pure nerd fan service.
It's true. I wish that I was there. I did reference it with Luke, right? I hope I did.
You did.
Okay, thanks. Anyway, well, regardless, we're here because it's time to break down, whether you like sand or not, all of the cards that have a lot of sand within them. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining me here for another round of reviews.
I can't believe it's time already. I really can't, and I'm really excited. I'm excited. It's as always my favorite time of the whole reveal is getting to do these shows, and I'm even more excited because we are doing this for a live studio audience for the first time, and that is really a lot of fun. So hi to everybody in chat.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who's joining us on Twitch right now and who will later. I remember we had a review where I welcomed back listeners about every 30 minutes or something like that. We've got some people who are sticking it out for the long haul because they came out live, but I know we'll have people coming and going. Just want to tell you how much it means to me and to Steve that you'd come and hang out with us. These review episodes really are a treat every year. I was actually thinking about it, Steve, even though we do this every single set, I was thinking about it today that usually it feels like we were just doing this, and for this one, it feels like it was a long time ago for whatever reason. Have we aged in Hearthstone years like way more than we have in the real world?
I mean, warrior years are 7 times longer than actual years.
That's actually accurate in every way. Well, regardless, we are going to batten down the hatches. But before we do, Steve, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself to any new listeners that we have who are listening to our reviews for the first time. So tell us who you are and your space in the Hearthstone universe here.
Yeah, so my name's Steve. I go by WickedGood. I do a podcast called Off Curve, which I record from my car while I am driving home from the train station. Usually about 35 to 40 minutes over whatever suits me, unless, someone comes and guests, and then it's an hour and a half to 2 hours, but that doesn't happen too often. And you may know me from the specialist meta reports. If you do any competitive Hearthstone, I do a number of dashboards collecting all the data from the specialist qualifiers and publish that as part of the No Pros Here meta report that goes out on a weekly basis while the qualifiers are going on. I do casting every so often. I will be, I think I can say it, but I'm not sure. I will be doing House Rivalries the next season when it starts in a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited for that. And I have a lot of opinions about cards. So...
And I still do vividly remember it when I was taking over the Happy Hearthstone and thinking about who do I want in that co-pilot seat. That I need somebody who can bring opinions. I need somebody who has a lot of strong opinions and somebody who is really fun to talk to. So you met it it all in spades, and that's why it's always such a joy for us to get together, man.
And also incredible stamina to go through all
You do have to have the stamina as well. So this will be a lot of fun. And if you haven't checked out Off Curve before, you definitely want to go do that. You can find it in any podcast app. And Steve comes out with a lot of additional things around this time as well. So he doesn't have enough just by talking for 6 hours about these cards with me. He also breaks down new decks with Ridiculous Hat and all sorts of other stuff. Don't you guys do a pre and post op essentially of
Well, we had an episode last week about that sometimes is wrapping up of the meta, and this time happened to be a little bit more about our feelings. Mm-hmm. So, which came out of the, the state of the game, that's similar to the episode that you released. And I think they actually recorded them on the same day. Mm-hmm. And, he and I had been having a lot of the same conversations in Discord. So you can go listen to that. It's one of the most It's not the most recent episode, but it's one of the most recent episodes. But I think it was a good listen. And usually right after we record this, like a day or two later, he and I go through every deck that's meta relevant from the first week in detail. So that's a trip. So I talk a lot about Hearthstone in this like week and a half, and then I just sit in silence for the rest of the time to let my voice rest.
And we're all better from listening to it, for sure. I know I at least am. Well, we've got obviously a ton of cards to get through, but we also have quite a bit to get through before we get there. So Steve, I have to ask you, as I always do, why you're happy today.
Well, I'm happy that I have air conditioning because I wasn't sure if I was going to as of a couple days ago.
It's one of those things that until you don't have it, you realize how grateful you really are for its existence.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even in Massachusetts where a lot of people don't have it because they just don't need it most of the time, but we've been having a heat wave and we were getting some stuff together on Sunday and all of a sudden I noticed a huge puddle on the floor and ended up spending 3 hours shop vacuuming up water off my basement floor. But luckily it was a quick fix, and I'm happy to be in air conditioning, and I'm also happy because my wife and I are celebrating 16 years of marriage on Sunday.
Congratulations, man! That is huge.
Yeah. So
what are you guys doing to celebrate?
We usually just go to Ruth's Chris and have steak without the children. My parents are going to take the twins for the night, and my oldest is at summer camp. So
perfect.
We'll just have a nice night to ourselves.
Ruth's Chris is one of the best steakhouses in town, I know. So keep it in line with that. We actually had some family friends who watched our kids, and it was our very first night without both of them. We actually had one night where we had to take Lane with us, but we had both of them for a few hours, and so we got away to a local brewery, and they were doing a trivia night, and my wife was excited about that, and I was like, if you're excited about it, we are definitely going to go do it. So Team Brownie Bites did not come in last place, at least. And so I was thankful for that. It was a lot of fun. The place had a chips and salsa cream ale. And that sounds weird. I've had some jalapeno beers in the past that are like too much of a kick in the pants. This was just flavor, and it's really weird to explain that it was actually good. I do have an affinity for the odd stuff, especially when it comes to beverages and food, but this was it was actually good. So I wish I could give all of you listeners a little sample of it. If you're in Colorado, let me know, and we'll swing by Cogstone and check it out. But that was just a ton of fun, and it's gas in the tank when you get some good time with your spouse and or loved one. So I'm super, super happy and thankful for that.
Yeah, it's so hard, especially when you have kids. And I mean, mine are 12 and 10 and 10, and I mean with twins especially, it's almost impossible. Mm-hmm. And whenever you can get that time, it's so important. And if you can, find something that you both want to do, it's a special treat.
Yeah, there are times I often think about how do people do this when you double up on a birth or triple up? It's just you just get through it, I guess. That's what I've heard from my friends who do have.
It's there's an old quote that's attributed to Churchill that I don't know if it's actually from him or not, because every quote is attributed to Churchill that if you're going through hell, keep going.
Yes. As long as you just keep swimming. That one was Winston Churchill.
The good thing is, however much sleep deprivation you're dealing with, when there's twins, there's so much more that you just don't remember any of it. So it's,
it's just a blur. Well, I'm happy that we do have some good time tonight, too, to dedicate to talking about all of these insane cards. This expansion is getting the proper hype, I think. There is just a lot of excitement and anticipation of what's going to change in the meta. So we will have a lot of time to talk about that. Really, for the news, all we need to tell you is that Saviors of Uldum is releasing today as this podcast episode releases. So I'm sure that you are either waiting with bated breath for it to release in a few hours, or it is already out there and you're listening to this as you are either finding deck lists or making your own or whatever. So it's insanity out there, and we will join and contribute to the insanity by going really in depth with all of these cards. And I do want to let you know before we get started about something that I've mentioned in the podcast before. If you're listening to this prior to Saviors of Uldum releasing, we always talk about how the pre-orders that they do are the absolute best deals. If you're going to drop any money into the game, that's the time you want to do it. And so I want to encourage you, if you still have not yet checked out that blog post that I wrote about how to get the single player for free when it's released, you can go check it out at thehappyhearthstone.com. Just scroll down to the bottom. It'll have the blog post near the bottom of the screen there. And the very first one has that title. Go check it out. And I've broken down step by step how you can get the absolute best of the best deal. It's a good enough deal on its own, but every little bit matters, especially when you're buying these expansions each go round. So go check that out if it hasn't released yet. Even if it has released, you can go check it and still save some money on any bundles that you buy and support the show in the process. So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, and one other thing that I forget every time, and I'm just going to say it as a PSA. Mm-hmm. If you're buying packs with gold, save yourself like 500 gold for like 2 weeks, just in case they do another Brawliseum, because they've been doing them pretty much after every set release. And so if you are like me and you put all of your available gold into packs, then you're going to be scrounging to try to get 1 or 2 in. And that's a really good way to be able to grind out a bunch of extra packs right after the set releases.
Yeah, that's a really good call, man. They did say with these patch notes that just came out that there are going to be some events around like Elise, I guess, leading the league back. So but last time when they had the Brawliseum, the day that the set released, or maybe the day after, I guess is what it was, they really had that happen with a lot of really positive feedback. So I don't know if we'll see it this go around, but it's definitely, you have nothing to lose by just delaying a few days and seeing what the first week or two at least of the Tavern Brawls are going to be.
Yeah, and I think it's the last 2 sets now, because I felt like Charlie Brown kicking the football with Rise of Shadows.
Right.
So I think it might be the last 2. So it's probably just worth it. Just like, you can always buy those packs later if they don't do it. Mm-hmm. And then just, you'll be happy, and then you'll be able to, because like if you have 500 gold, and even if you just like break even, that's generally pretty good to be able to get a bunch of extra packs.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, before we jump into all of these cards, we need to talk very briefly about how we do our rating system. Hopefully, many of you are joining us from years and expansions gone by. But for any new listeners, we want to give you a brief overview of what to expect. We do wait until all of the cards have been revealed because we feel like that gives us the best chance pre the expansion releasing to know in context the chance that these cards have to be good. We've gone through a lot of different iterations of kind of what we define as the end game of the score that we're going to give these. We think it's fun to give cards scores. We're not hanging our hat on anything. Well, there are some cards that we do hang our hats on because we were right or wrong, mostly right. But these scores are mostly for fun, for the dialogue, and for us to give you as a listener a good idea of which cards to pay attention to and which ones that you probably don't need to hold on to or mess around with too much. We do give each a constructed and an arena score. For the constructed score, we're mostly considering standard, though if applicable, we'll talk about wild. If you're really interested in wild, my good buddy Saucy Mailman and Danny Donuts do Into the Wild podcast, and they do the same thing that we do as far as like insane amounts of time talking about all of these cards, and they're talking purely from wild focus. So go listen to that if you're really interested, but we will bring it up now and again if appropriate. Anything you want, and I guess it's a scale of 1 to 5. We do reserve 0s for the worst of the worst, and that's everything I can think of. What else am I forgetting, Steve?
That I think the only thing is that when we're rating them for constructed, we're not rating them on power or meta viability. Mm-hmm. It's more of a scale of how important is it going to be in terms of the deck that wants it. Mm-hmm. So the decks that wants it may not be good. It may not be meta relevant, but generally 1 is going to be just, it doesn't have a place at all. And 5 would be something that's meta defining, or that's deck defining, that you're going to build an entire deck around. Yeah. And whether or not that deck is actually viable or not may figure into that score a little bit, but it's not going to be like, if we rate something, this is not a crafting guide. That's what I'm trying to say. This is not a crafting guide. Absolutely. If we rate something a 5, that does not mean you should go craft it in golden day 1 unless it's the priest quest, in which case you absolutely should. Sure. But and if we rate something a 1 or a 0, that doesn't mean you should dust it right away. Like, things change, and we are often wrong, just like everybody is. Like, we're just kind of doing this for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like more so than any other expansion review that we've done, I'm entering this one really trying to have a perspective for the future as well. Yeah. Because I feel like we're at a better place where we can hypothesize what might come around. We never know for sure, but I am willing to look at a card that I may say today, this has absolutely no place anywhere. And, you know, the effect's kind of cool, but it just isn't going to work. But then think about, well, what if there was something like this? Well, then that would actually make this card pretty viable. Maybe the deck would work. And we see that happen a lot of times. I mean, in this set, there are several cards that are going to bring out some Witchwood and what are the other sets that were revealed last? I don't even. Good Lord.
It was Witchwood, Boomsday, and Rastakhan.
Thank you so much. So, like Rastakhan, especially, like that one really didn't get a lot of limelight, and so I think that it'll be fun talking about these cards and also speculating a little bit. But we try and do our best to just say, is this card good enough on its own, and then take it from there. So
yeah, and I think the other thing, and I mean, we're talking about all of the savior classes this week, and these all have Reno style archetypes,
right?
Which changes things a lot, because suddenly, like, a lot of what goes into whether a card is going to be good enough and constructed or not is, well, what are you taking out for it, or what is it replacing? And when it's taking up 1 slot out of 30 as opposed to 2 slots out of 30, that makes a big difference in terms of like how much does it need to do in order to contribute.
Right. And you know when Reno decks are going to be the most powerful? Winter of 2020.
Yeah, absolutely.
When there are, well, and I guess actually for the next set too, you'd have as many pool of cards, but just thinking about that, like these Reno cards, you've got to think about like if there's more, you know, because right now you're going to be at least a little limited. I didn't really think about it, but doing it for the middle set is kind of perfect because you have enough at this point to kind of make them work, but like if you did it as the first set of the year, it just wouldn't really be great. Anyway, we've talked too long about hypotheses and processes and stuff. We need to talk about the reason why all of you are listening right now, which is for cards. So let's go ahead and get it started. We're going to start off with Druid. Like Steve mentioned, we're going to go through the League of Explorers classes. And Steve, why don't you kick us off with this Druid quest here?
I mean, it's only appropriate because this is a card that requires you to play off curve, so I really should be entering.
I wish I had planned that, but regardless, take it, man.
Yeah, so Untapped Potential is a legendary spell, which is a quest, and I guess we should talk about quests in general real quick. Yep. That quests are coming back. Each class is getting one. As with the other quests in the past, they start in your opening hand. They all cost 1. They all get played out, and then they give you a reward. What is different about the quests in this set versus in Ungoro is that the quests in Saviors of Uldum are immediately change your hero power. There is not a quest reward card that you need to play,
right? And
it immediately just changes your hero power. And they generally seem to be a little bit more mid-game oriented than the late-game bombs of the original quest. But so Untapped Potential is a 1-mana quest for Druid. The quest reads, end 4 turns with any unspent mana. Reward is Osirian Tear, and Osirian Tear is a passive hero power that says all of your choose 1 cards activate both powers. I'm not like it was hard to evaluate this because this was at the very beginning, like when we first saw this, and it's like, well, what are the choose 1 cards? And they're okay, the ones that were there. I mean, Crystal Power was the only one that was introduced in the last set, and that's like, well, you can heal something for 5 and then do 2 damage to it. That's not great. But we'll talk about some of the other choose 1 cards that we have, and even things like Mark of the Loa. Or, I mean, we know how good like Wrath and Nourish are with choose 1, and you can play things like Cenarius. They showed in the reveal stream, and that was an old school Yogg Druid play of Cenarius with Fandral on board. Yep. So like a lot of these cards, like the most really broken Fandral cards are gone, but even the ones that are here are pretty good. And like you can float mana for 4 turns. That's not super hard, especially in Druid, which has a lot of healing and a lot of armor gain.
Well, as I heard on the Blizzlet podcast, they were very quick to mention that this is literally the easiest quest to fulfill.
Yeah.
You do nothing.
You can just literally sit there and do nothing. Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree with everything that you're saying. Now that we've seen some pretty powerful choose one cards that are, decent on their own, but extremely powerful when you get both effects. I'm pretty hyped about this card. I mean, we even saw Chalky coining out to add an extra tick, and it looks like, you are going to have to take a few turns on the nose. But you can definitely make up for it with those later with the later turns that you have, because all of these quests are far more mid-game oriented. Maybe save one of them that we'll talk about later. And this one especially, I guess we should say, for anyone who hasn't played with quests before, you will have this guaranteed in your opening mulligan. So being able to know that you play this on turn 1 and then you can have several turns to work yourself up. By turn 5 or 6, you can be playing things like the Oasis Surger that we saw, which is probably the most insane option. Even Tending Tauren and some other things just can really flood the board and buff it really quickly. And I think that this is going to be... this doesn't really fit in a Token Druid because it's too slow and Token needs to go really fast. But I do think that there's some kind of... we're going back old school with mid-range Druid, because that used to be the archetype for Druid, and I feel like this is going to bring it back.
Yeah, but without Force Roar, thank God. But,
None of
but
that.
And I mean, the flip side of knowing that's going to be your opening hand, there is a downside to that, which is you are losing a card in your mulligan.
Sure.
So, and that does have a cost, and we saw that with some of the original quests too, especially anything that's tempo based, you lose out on that card slot. So there is a cost. I think in this case it's worth it, and Druid just desperately needs a way to play that's not token, because it hasn't really had anything since they nerfed all the mana gain into the ground. So yeah, I mean, I think this is... I don't know that I'm willing to go up to a 5. I think the card reveal stream is a little bit misleading, because those decks are tuned to be able to show as many cards as possible do the most broken things as possible. And I don't know how well this is going to play against 2 8/8s on turn 4, but I'm willing to believe. I think I'll give it a 4.
Yeah, I'd go with you on that.
Yeah.
And then these quests are not going to show up in Arena, so we won't give it a score.
Right.
There. Okay, next one here is Elise the Enlightened. 5 mana, 5/5 battle cry. If your deck has no duplicates, duplicate your hand. I said that correctly. Vocabulary was almost going to mess me up on that. So, pretty cool that we're seeing actually the stats from all of these heroes replicated, which is just fun flavor-wise, I think. This is way off the beaten path from what we've seen from Elise in the past. And from the moment I saw this, I thought, this is a combo enabler. This will give you more cards, more specific instances of cards than what you need or could normally get. And I don't know. We haven't seen combo... We saw things like Ixalan Fungal Lord, and I feel like there's one other that I'm forgetting that really...
Forbiddeness Floop.
Forbiddeness Floop, thanks. And that's still in there. So I feel like Elise has a lot of potential just because this effect is so strong. The problem is you have to construct your deck with the singleton bend to it. And then I saw your tweet, Steve, so I'll let you take the thunder from that.
Yeah, because I realized this morning, oh, wait, you don't actually have to build it with duplicates, with no duplicates, because Elise only checks when you play her. So what that means is that you can just put all the card draw on your deck, and you're never going to play Elise until you have all your combo pieces anyway. So now you can build Mali Druid, or you can build Gnome Druid. They're both viable.
Yeah.
And the way that I was looking at it, I'm putting in Dream Petal Florist just, you
have to,
because I'm also running Juicy Psych Melon, so I needed a 7-drop to draw.
Yeah.
And so we've got Forbiddeness Floop, we've got Malygos. You play Elise once you have both Moonfires in your hand, and Malygos and Floop. And so you play Malygos. Malygos either dies or it doesn't. Either way, you don't care. And then you play double Floop and 4 Moonfires, and you burn your opponent down for 44 or, more than that if Malygos managed to live. So, again, Bomb Warrior may be a thing, so that, your mileage may vary. But I think there are different ways to do this, and you don't necessarily... this is one thing that we did back in the old days of, Reno, is we used to experiment with, well, what if we had, two really important cards that we had two copies of. So we'll get to the rest of the classes, and I'm a little bit down on the singleton decks in general, but I think that Elise probably has a place in enabling combo Druid going forward.
And I think the big thing about drawing through your deck is that that's what a combo deck wants to do anyway. So it's not asking you to do something outside of the norm. So I think that she's at least a 4. I'd probably
I think so.
Keep her right there.
And in Arena, she's a 5-mana 5/5 basically. I mean, you can if you get her offered early, you can build your deck around it, but you may not necessarily duplicating your hand may or may not be something you want. It probably is. But you're probably gonna get this offered after you've kind of drafted a couple of duplicates anyway, and you're never gonna draft for getting offered Elise because she's a legendary.
Right.
So I would say it's probably a 3. She's a fairly statted minion. You're not. I mean, again, you're gonna be offered her against other legendaries, which are just going to be awful. So you'll take her.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, and then we go on to Anubis F Defender, which is a 5-mana 3/5 epic taunt, cost 0 if you cast a spell that costs 5 or more this turn. So this is good old Arcane Tyrant with taunt. I don't think there's any more that we really need to say. We know that Arcane Tyrant was very good in these types of decks. It was run all the time. We don't have Ultimate Infestation anymore, but we have a couple cards that are pretty close that also draw you cards and basically don't do anything, and this lets you develop behind those.
Well, and to me, that's what's key, is that there are playable big Druid spells. If there were not, then this would kind of just be an awkward thing there, but I totally agree. I think I'd prefer this over Arcane Tyrant, especially since if you're playing big spells, you're probably playing more of a late game, and so having a taunt to get in the way of anything that's overrunning you mid-game or something like that is exactly what you want. So honestly, I really want to give this a 5 because I think it's exactly what you want.
I gave it a 4 originally, but I'm willing to go up to a 5. I mean, if there is any sort of a deck that's going to play big spells, and it looks like there's going to be, then this is going to be played. It's not even a question.
Absolutely. And in Arena, it's fine. It's probably a 4 there, I would think.
Yeah, it's probably draft dependent. Like if you draft a couple of big spells, which you may be offered a couple. I mean, there are several in this set that you're going to be offered. If you get enough of those, it might be worth it. Even if not, it's still a 3/5 taunt. You're probably not super excited about it, but it's probably decent.
Even though the stats are off from what you'd like, I mean, Sen'jin Shieldmaster is a mana lower. I don't think you're as upset about the lack of stats because it's getting in your opponent's way. And so it could be less than ideal, but I think that more often than not, it's going to be fine. And so, to me, it feels like 4 is about right for that.
I mean, I think if we're saying fine
that's
usually
3.
means 3.
Yeah, that's 3. You're exactly right. Took the words right out of my mouth. All right, next one here is Crystal Merchant, 2 mana 1/4. If you have any unspent mana at the end of your turn, draw a card. I'm going to be honest, there's some cards that just throw me off, and this is one of them. Obviously, this effect is in line with the quest, but that's about it. Like, you don't want to play this on turn 2. You want to play it on turn 3, and then at that point, you're like 1 turn off from completing the quest, or maybe 2, I guess. So it seems pretty good. The stats are fine. I just don't really know if this is actually going to make that deck or not.
I mean, I guess the way that you look at this is offsetting losing the card in the mulligan, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're also losing another card by having to play this.
Right.
So I mean, Druid has so many ways to draw cards. Like, there's a lot. I just theory crafted that deck, and I put like all the good card draw, and it never even crossed my mind to put this card in.
Yeah.
There is so much good card draw in Druid. You don't need this. I would say it's probably okay. I'm actually willing to go down to a 2 just because it just feels unnecessary.
Yeah. If it feels unnecessary, then 2 is pretty generous.
In Arena, it's probably a little bit better, just because you're going to be floating mana when you're top decking, and maybe this is something where at least you can get an extra card out of it late, and you're not going to have all that card draw available to you, so maybe it's closer to a 3 in Arena.
Yeah, I think 3 is fine. I mean, the truth is that it's a lightning rod because your opponent does not want you to have unlimited cards, but it's just not going to... I don't think it's the card draw that you want. It's a trap, truly.
It might be the card draw you deserve.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
So Hidden Oasis is a 6-mana spell. Choose one, summon a 6/6 Ancient with Taunt, or restore 12 health. So obviously with the quest, this is bonkers. But I don't even with the quest, it's not even. I mean, 12 health is a lot of health, but you actually have to be damaged for 12 health. Like, a lot of times you're not going to be. And it's going to be like restore 5 health or restore 7 health, which is not nothing, but it's also not as good as it seems. And then you're basically playing a 6-mana 6/6 with Taunt, which is, again, it's fine. I feel like you have other choices that will be better than this. I mean, you can trigger the Anubis F Defender with it, which I guess is going for it. But
sure.
I feel like I'm never excited about this card. Like, maybe you run one of them just for the health game, but I mean, you could just run what's the Healing Touch. And it's probably going to do about the same thing, except for the fact that with the quest, it's going to do both.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is that you can pretty reliably get your quest done by turn 6. So in that quest deck, this stops the bleeding, you know? If you're up against someone that's extremely aggressive. Restoring 12 health is a lot. And then being able to put a big old buffed up baddie with Taunt in the way. I mean, unless they have like Deadly Shot or something, there are going to be ways to get around this. But I feel like this is the kind of comeback mechanic that they really need against those kinds of strategies. I do think that more often than not, if you're playing this, there are going to be very few times where you get the 12 health off of it, because you have to be pretty far behind. But I think that in those instances, this is a game-changing card. So it's kind of hard to evaluate. And if you're just getting a 6/6 Ancient with Taunt, that's okay. But you probably shouldn't have played it if that was the case. So I think it's a 3 because it has a place, but it's not the most efficient card out there.
Yeah, I mean, the question you would ask yourself is, if you're playing a deck that is running 2 copies of cards, would you ever put 2 of this in there? And I don't think you ever would. I think you maybe would put 1 of those in your deck, even with the quest.
I think if there's a lot of aggro out there, then you do. But actually, honestly, if there's a lot of aggro out there, you probably play a different deck. You don't play this one
or you're gonna play other cards that are better against that. So I think that's the definition of a 3, and it's probably a 3 for Arena, because again, even if it's just a 6-mana 6/6 with Taunt, that's fine for Arena.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next card here is Overflow. 7-mana rare spell. Restore 5 health to all characters. Draw 5 cards. So, what was the name of that 9-mana Tree of Life?
Oh, yeah.
This is Tree of Life-ish, that it's affecting everything and everyone, including your opponent. Sapling of Life. Are those little treants getting flooded? Because that's just sad if that's the case. A little
I don't know. Maybe they just get very thirsty.
Well, regardless, the reason you're playing this card isn't for the restore 5 health. It's for the draw 5 cards. And I think that just for that, I mean, you think about Sprint, which is 7 mana, draw 4 cards. And granted, Druid doesn't have prep, which is a big reason why you play Sprint. But still, just by that alone, this is pretty dang good. And again, along with the Anubis F Defender, this is just insane. This is definitely the card that you want to play with that. And one of those big draw mechanics we talked about for any kind of combo deck that can get through really quick.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you do sometimes care about the health, because Lucent Bark is a card.
Sure, yeah.
And if you're restoring 5 health to everything, it's across all of that, you'll probably restore at least 5 health.
That counts, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, because Lucent Bark doesn't care who you're restoring health to. It just cares that you're doing it. So, like, if you're restoring 5 health to everything on the board, that will probably add up to 5 total when you play it. So that'll probably bring that back. And again, like, if you care about just drawing everything in your deck, this is, unassuming infestation.
Right.
Like, it's not as broken as Ultimate Infestation, but it's really good. I mean, it's gonna heal your board at the cost of healing your opponent's board. That probably is not that big of a deal. You're gonna heal your opponent's face for 5, but you're probably gonna burn it off for 40 later. So who cares? And you're getting 5 cards out of the deal, and then you may resuscitate a Lucent Bark, and you may drop an Anubis F Defender or 2 in the process. So I think this card is better than it looks, and I think the downside is not as bad as it seems.
What's the name of that card that gives you a druid spell for every?
Oh, I know what you're talking about, and I can't remember because it hasn't seen it saw play like for 5 minutes
By Ike.
in Ike's championship deck.
Um,
Oh gosh, what is the name of that card? I don't even remember. Is it Lifebringer or something?
that might be it. It's funny.
Life something.
I pulled up Heal Druid on hsreplay.net, and even
It doesn't have
that doesn't have it. So
No.
never mind. Anyway, if that does get you as many cards as you're healing, I think it's anyone. So it would be for each hero and minion. That's kind of insane too. So it's worth considering.
I mean you're gonna burn.
Oh, but you're drawing 5.
that
Yeah,
way.
never mind. You don't want to do that. That was way too long down a rabbit hole. So yeah, I think this is at least a 4.
Yeah, I think so.
And then in Arena, it's around the same.
I think so. I mean, drawing 5 cards in Arena late game, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I think it is.
I'm down
I think
with
you're
that.
right. I think it is a 4.
Sounds good.
So Garden Gnome is a 4-mana 2/3 battle cry. If you're holding a spell that costs 5 or more, summon 2/2/2 treants. Fine.
There's a reason this was in the dump afterwards, because I think that's where it belongs.
I don't even we've got a lot of cards to talk about. There's probably a use for something like this. I, for the life of me, can't figure it out. I mean, maybe it's that stupid card from Rastakhan that turns all your 2/2 treants into 5/5s.
Oh, I love that card. Nice.
You know,
or
maybe you're really trying to make Mulch Muncher happen. I don't know.
The big problem with this card is that there aren't any spells that are 5 or more for Druid that I want in my Treant deck. I mean, maybe run 2 copies of Overflow.
There is. It's called the Farasade.
Right. That is the only one. No, you're absolutely right. And I guess even with the twin spell, maybe that makes sense. But I need one more card that's going to activate this. The truth is, 4 mana for 6/9 worth of stats is really good. But I just don't think that there's a place for this. So I want to go for a 1 on this.
I'm going for 1. Maybe there's some way to break this. I'm not going to spend time figuring it out.
Arena is a 2.
I think it's got to be a 1. It's a 4-mana 2/3.
Yeah, more often than not.
I mean,
yeah,
sometimes you're going to have a spell that costs 5 or more, but you're not going to be able to bank on that.
Yeah.
So most of the time, it's a 4-mana 2/3. That's pretty bad.
Sorry, Garden Gnome. You should go back to watching instead of playing.
Yeah.
Next card here is Bees. We've been waiting for so long to talk about this. Choose a minion. 3 mana, common spell. Choose a minion, summon 4 1/1 bees that attack it. Druid has been dying for some single target removal, or just some removal that matters. And it is nice, I think, that they're getting a very original one with this. There are so many ways that you can utilize this. I mean, we could spend a priest card's length of time probably talking about bees.
Well, let's not go crazy now.
The truth is that
it is a druid card after all. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Right. I mean, the card that really comes to mind with this is Implosion for Warlock, which it dealt damage and summoned that many imps. And for this, you're kind of doing that, except you're always getting 4 bees, and if you kill something with a couple of those bees, the remaining ones will still be there. There are instances where you want to hit something multiple times to either enrage it, or I know Line Cracker was the big thing when this card got revealed. That was every time you're doubling its attack, it's kind of insane. So there's just a lot of unique stuff with this card, but I think Bare Bones is a 3 mana, deal 4 damage, which is the Warlock basic spell, deal 4 damage to a minion.
Oh, Shadow Bolt?
Shadow Bolt, thank you. So even just there, it's a fine, solid removal card. But I think there are a lot of instances where you're really going to be happy to play this.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to get fancy, right? Token Druid needs a removal sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, if you're removing a minion that's annoying, if you're removing a Ziliax, right? And you don't necessarily care about your opponent's health, you just need to get rid of the Ziliax. You're going to kill a Ziliax and you're going to have a 1/1 left over that you can buff. That's fine, right? That's the floor. So, the floor is that you're going to do 3 mana for 4 damage, which is perfectly fine. The ceiling is that you get to do obnoxious stuff with Acolyte of Pain or Gurubashi Berserker or Line Cracker or whatever, and start, or even I mean, if you really want to get super, super fancy, you could work in Ticket Scalper. there are easier ways to draw cards than that.
Yeah, that may not
but
be what you really want.
There's a lot of things that you can do with having those attack your own minions as well. I think I'm not willing to go up to a 5 on it. Like, I feel like it's good, but I feel like people are a little bit too excited, mostly because of the name. And
well,
I feel
come
like,
on, you have
and
to
I
be.
feel like it's flexible, but I don't know. I don't know in practice if it's going to be as ridiculous as people think it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's just the utility of it that's so fascinating. So when I think about it as Shadow Bolt with some upside, then 4 is probably as high as you should go on this card.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. In Arena, it's got to be the same though, because it is it's solid removal.
Yeah, I mean it's removal. It's direct damage. Like, sure, that's good for Arena.
Cool.
Worthy Expedition is a 1-mana spell. Discover a choose 1 card. So maybe if you need filler for your Reno deck, then I'm calling it Reno because on the reveal stream they said that they call them Reno decks internally, even though
whatever
Reno's
you
not
want to call it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So for your Reno deck, if you need filler and you're playing the quest, or even if you're just playing the quest, maybe you do this. But like, generally those kinds of cards have fallen out of the lists. I mean, whenever you have a discover a whatever for the deck, like if you think about like the card that lets you discover a Death Rattle for like Death Rattle Rogue, right? Like those cards tend to fall out of the list once you start. Or even like Secret Plan for Secret Hunter, right? Like, sure, yeah. Secret Plan doesn't get played in Secret Hunter. It gets played in decks that aren't Secret Hunter because you want to be drawing the secrets.
I think that these cards really exist for the random effects. You know, like you're never too upset to get this off a random effect, and that's great, especially when the choose one pool is so small. But it's going to be tough to justify a card, especially in future expansions. I think this card's going to get less and less play as it goes. So it's either a 2 or 3. What do you think?
I feel like it's a 2.
Okay, I'm good with that.
And it's probably the same in Arena because I mean you're getting a choose 1 card, but you'd rather just draw the actual card. You'd rather just draft the actual card, right?
Yeah.
So
the argument is that this kind of allows you to get 3 of, but I just don't think you're only going to get that sometimes.
What are you getting 3 of? I mean, I guess the
next card. Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to it. Oasis Surger. This is a 5-mana 3/3 elemental with rush, and choose one, gain +2/+2, or summon a copy of this minion. So baseline, this is a 5-mana 5/5 with rush, or 2 3/3s with rush, which is 6 damage for those of you counting at home. Yeah. So math says that this is a fine card. I can't think of any 5-mana rush cards to compare this to.
Ziliax?
You got Ziliax, you got Darius Crowley, I guess. But those are more for like lifesteal or the buff, and this is just like solid stats, essentially.
So Militia Commander's 4 mana, right? That's probably the closest.
Sure. Yeah.
That's 4 mana, 5 damage, right? So, and this stays 5 attack, unlike Militia Commander, if you leave it as a 5/5.
Now, when you get the choose one off of Osirian's Tier, or whatever the quest name is again, that's 2 5-mana 5 or 2 5/5s with rush for 5 mana, which is just insane. Plus, all of these choose ones are going to have some kind of buff mechanics because there are lots of choose one cards that allow you to do that. So, I think that this is really the card that makes sense of a quest druid list. And it's a solid card on its own, but it just gets bananas if you've got the quest done.
Would you go so far to say that this is a weapon of math destruction?
With that, I will I will say it should be a 5 in my book.
I mean, in the quest deck, right? Like we're stipulating that like this is a card that you probably only play in the quest deck, right? Because outside the quest deck, like you can play it, but I don't think you would put it in your deck. I think you have better options to use as removal.
Yeah,
in the quest deck, this is bananas, and you're going to play it in the quest deck every time.
Yeah, and I the thing is with Arena, that's when I think about this just being a randomly good card in your deck. I think you'll draft this quite often there.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know that I'd go so far as a 5. I think it's probably a 4 in Arena.
I'd do that, yeah.
But it's very good.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
We made it through
we did it.
Druid.
45 minutes. Well, we did this last time too, and then we ended up falling out like halfway through.
Well,
but we're not talking about Priest today, so
no, we're not.
We might just do it.
We'll be just fine. So I'll take the quest this time with Unseal the Vault for Hunter. This is 1 mana quest. The quest is summon 20 minions. The reward is Ramkahen Roar, which is a 2 mana hero power that gives your minions +2 attack. This is a weird quest. So I said before, and they've said on the streams and stuff, that they wanted to make quests more mid-range. 20 minions is the opposite of that. Like, this is this is going to take you a good long time to complete. And in fact, the example decks that we saw in the streams really had only cards that made multiple minions. And Hunter is getting a few examples of that in this set. I'm struggling, though, because as powerful as... Okay, hold on. The synergy between playing a deck with a lot of minions in it and the payoff hero power being to buff all of those minions feels pretty strong to me on surface level. But when I start thinking about how long it takes you to get there, the fact that a lot of these minions, if not all of these minions, only have 1 health and are susceptible to just about anything your opponent has, it has me feeling like it's a lot of work for a payoff that's really not too guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, 20 minions it's a big number. It's a crooked number. It's a big number. It's a scary number. I mean, if you get it to go off, you basically win on the spot, right? Because like you have a bunch of minions and you get to do Force of Nature that sticks around every turn. Like you and I are both old enough to remember Karazhan Midrange Shaman.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Where you would basically just keep spamming totems, and then you had a minion that had Inspire, give all your totems +2 attack.
Oh, I forgot about that
card.
Jeez.
Yeah, this is what the hell was the name of that card? Thunder Bluff Valiant, I think?
Yes, that's it. Mm-hmm.
So this is giving you a hero power of Thunder Bluff Valiant. Like, that's... In a deck,
and it's not just totems.
Take advantage of it by definition, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of minions that make other minions. Like we see a couple of them. We'll get to when we eventually get to the commons, like the neutrals of like, a 1/1 that summons 2 more 1/1s, or like Microtech Controller or that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And you do always have Unleash the Hounds and Lynxes and Halazi. I have a golden Halazi that's been collecting dust in my in my collection.
It's going to see some play if you get the quest off of for Hunter.
So I don't like. I feel like you can abuse this, but it just feels like a lot of work to get there, and it feels like you're a glass cannon when you do it that way, right? Like, like you're setting yourself up that if you can get there, you win, but you need to live long enough to do that with a bunch of 1/1s, and I'm not sure how you do that.
I will say that it was really interesting seeing their take with Revenge of the Wild, with like Huffers and Unleash the Hounds and stuff. I mean, he had a sweet lethal at the end of that game. If you didn't see that, it really made me rethink. But I don't think that those were dependent on Unseal the Vault. So I really want to go middle of the road, say that this is a 3. There's definitely potential for it, and honestly, I am very sick of Hunters right now in my play on the ladder.
Oh, me too.
I don't want them to have a really strong quest. So if you get this, it'll be fun to mess around with. It'll be challenging, and when you get that payoff, it'll feel really good. But I don't think this is going to be a meta-defining card by any stretch.
In Wild, you can play both quests.
You can. What was the... Oh, gosh. No.
With Carnassa.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to move right along after that.
Okay. So Dino Tamer Bran is a 7-mana legendary minion, 2/4. Battle Cry. If your deck has no duplicates, summon King Crush. So now we're going to get on my rant about the non-Elise Highlander decks. And we will... I'm going to repeat this a lot. I feel like these decks, even with Zephyrs, which we'll talk about, which I will say now, and we'll talk about it when we get to the end of the show, when we talk about neutrals, I think is a straight up trap card. But so that's something for you to stick around for. But I just feel like the lack of consistency you're going to have in these Highlander decks that are not like, Malygos Druid draw your whole deck, are just not worth the the payoff that you're getting. Like, you can just put King Crush in your deck right now. This is not Jan'alai, right? Where like the only way you're getting Ragnaros is by hitting things with your hero power for 8 damage. Like, you can just put King Crush in your deck right now, and you're not doing that. So like 7 mana is less than 9. I get that. I do understand how math works, but I feel like you need to get there, and at that point, like the two 7/8s and two 8/8s don't care about your 1/8/8 with charge.
I think the big thing that I've been thinking since the beginning isn't do you construct a Reno Hunter deck for this, because I think the answer is pretty clearly not. So the next step I've been looking at is this effect powerful? Because the effect to summon a King Crush is very powerful just in a vacuum on its own, right? Right now, there's no good way to take advantage of that other than a Youthful Brewmaster, which that's fine. And honestly, I don't think you play a Reno Hunter without that. But like that's still not enough for me at the end of the day. So I think that there's potential if we see any cards that modify battle cries similar to Youthful Brewmaster or Old School Brand. So you do have to be on the lookout for that. But today, this is just it's I don't even know that it's a cool card. It just is a card, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I like Bran. I'm sad that this is. I mean, I think that it's going to be really cool when it happens, but I just don't like the cost of you introducing all that variance into your deck building is a lot. Well, and it's not to be underestimated. Like how much, like the way that I think about it, and I know that these metas are different and the power level is a lot lower, but like as soon as Reno Jackson rotated out, we had one actual meta Kazakus deck, and that was because Raza the Chained and Shadow Reaper Anduin were just stupid together.
Right.
Like that had nothing to do with like you and Priest had enough things at that point because they kept pushing Priest that you could do that. But like there was like Kazakus Warlock and Kazakus Mage were tried a couple times and they were played, but they were never really meta relevant. Despite like all of the broken cards that we had at the end of that meta. So I'm not seeing how we're going to get there here, but maybe the power level is low enough across the board that you can. I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's just something to watch. I want to push for a 3 just because I think that there's potential here. And the other thing, honestly, is that I think that Hunter's probably one of the best classes suited for building a Reno deck. Because there's just got
so much stuff.
Yeah, they have a ton of tools, and specifically in this set, they got a lot of strong cards that don't necessarily fit past variants, but could, I think, push something like that. So that's my reasoning, at least on a 3. Are you down with that?
Yeah, I can go up to a 3. I think it's probably a 3 in Arena also, and that's mainly because it's so draft dependent. Like again, if you get this offered early in the draft, you can build around it, and then it's really powerful.
Yeah.
If not, then this is undraftable. So that's it's either a 1 or a 5, so that I land in the middle and I get a 3.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yep.
Okay, next one here is Wildblood Stinger, 6 mana, 6/9 beast, battle cry, summon a minion from your opponent's hand, attack it. This is not the scorpion that you scraped off of the sole of your shoe. This is a dastardly, dirty rat and kill something more than likely effect. It's one thing for a minion to have this effect. It's another thing for it to be huge. And I mean, there are very few minions that this is not going to kill just straight out.
You know what this is? This is not the scorpion you scraped off of your shoe. This is Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. This is Scorpion jumping in and shouting, "Get over here!" and then kills it.
Yep.
So and we need things like this. Like even if it doesn't kill a Mecha'thun, but if it kills like a Baleful Banker, right? Yeah. Or even just like takes out a Shirvala before it's ready, even if it doesn't kill it, like that's fine. Like this is at least going to damage it a lot. You're going to have a 6 attack minion that's left over. That's not anything to sneeze at. Also, and a 6 mana 6/9 that summons something for your opponent, but then you're actually killing it. Like, so you're getting a 6 something for 6 mana, assuming that, what you pull is not Mecha'thun, which is fine, right? Like, that's nothing to sneeze at.
It's just crazy proactive. Outside of the matchup against Cyclone Mage, where, you'll pull a Sea Giant or a Mountain Giant and be really sad. Actually, they've already played those things and Conjurer's Calling them, so it doesn't matter. But like outside of those fringe situations, this is going to disrupt your opponent. It's going to get you a lot of stats on the board really quick. and you're probably going to be able to take advantage of it with some beast cards or something. So I don't see how this isn't a 5 in every aspect.
No, I think it has to be, and even in Arena, I think it is too.
Oh, in Arena, maybe even more so, like a 5+ or something. I don't know.
It's a 6, is what it is. But yeah, I mean, though Katrina Huerta doesn't die from this, so that's good. That makes me happy.
So you're safe.
So I'm fine. Scarlet Web Weaver is a 6-mana 5/5 epic beast. Battle cry, reduce the cost of a random beast in your hand by 5. So Tundra Rhino costs 5. So we've all seen that, that graphic on Twitter over the last couple days. I don't know that this is I look at this and it looks really cool and flashy, but it feels like really, really awkward because you have whenever you're playing a beast deck, you're playing things like Spring Paw, Scavenging Hyena. And it's you need to get all those out of your hand before and just have the Tundra Rhino left over, and then you have nothing to do with the Tundra Rhino. Mm-hmm. So, and then you have to, obviously you play Master's Call right after that because that's the way every Hunter game goes. But, but and yeah, if you've Dire Frenzied already, but it's you probably don't need the Tundra Rhino at that point. You're probably winning those games anyway. So it feels kind of win more to me, but maybe there's a scenario where this is not win more, but it just feels like getting everything to line up so that the beast that you care about is the only one in your hand that it will actually reduce. Anyone who's played with Dream Petal Florist knows the pain of the Dream Petal Florist hitting the Arcane Tyrant that you couldn't get out of your hand in time.
Yeah, I think the big problem is that it just doesn't do anything right now. In order for it to do something right now, you have to play that Tundra Rhino immediately, which is not what we're talking about doing. So I think there's potential, but this just screams Dragon Consort to me, which never had a place. And that's partially due to Dragon support, but also I think just because the effect itself isn't as game-breaking as it seems like it is, maybe in some circumstances that are far more fringe than we'd like to admit. So there's potential. I would go for a 3 on it probably.
Yeah, that's where I'm going on it.
And then in Arena, it's either
a 2.
Yeah.
It's a 6-mana 5/5 most of the time.
And you're probably not going to have the big beasts that really matter in order to get the value.
And even if you are, half the time you're going to draw this when you're top decking.
Sure.
Right? So you may not even have the beast in your hand even if you manage to draft it. Mm-hmm. 6-mana 5/5 is not the worst thing in the world, but it's not what you're looking for.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the rares. Swarm of Locusts is a 6-mana rare spell. Summon 7 1/1 Locusts with Rush. So this is one of those tools for the quest for sure, because getting a ton of stuff, 6 minions on one turn, you're more than 25% there. I mean, that's kind of crazy. And it's really been tough for me to figure out how to evaluate this card. If you have a Scavenging Hyena in hand, it's insane, right? Being able to just run them into stuff and buff up your Hyena is really good. But a 6 mana deal 7 damage to something. We don't have anything. Well, I guess Dragon. Flame? Oh gosh, I'm already forgetting names of cards. The 7 mana 7/4.
Crowd Roaster.
Crowd Roaster. Thank you. We've got that, but that has a 7/4 body attached to it. These
one. It also does 7 damage all at once, right? Without having, and it can go over taunts.
Right. So I feel like this one is not exactly what you want. You kind of have to run it, and it's almost worse because of that.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels so slow. 6 mana is a lot for a deck like this. Mm-hmm. And it just you can play Timberwolf alongside it. You can put down a Scavenging Hyena, but then you're also getting fewer Locusts, or you're getting less value out of the Locusts because this is going to fill up your board, right? So now you're down to 6 Locusts because one of them just died for nothing, mm-hmm. right? Because you need to make room on the board. Either you're running into something, or you're playing something else first, and then you're getting fewer Locusts. You're only getting 7 Locusts if you have an empty board.
Right.
That's another thing to keep in mind too. So you need to have an empty board in order to use this. And then if you have an empty board, is 7 1/1 Locust with Rush going to do it for you? Maybe sometimes, but probably not often enough. You can play this, or you can play Unleash the Beast.
That's exactly what I was thinking. And it's you play Unleash the Beast every time because it's just so good.
Yeah, and you get that twice. You get 2 5/5s out of that as opposed to 7 1/1s. I mean, again, for the quest, you probably have to play this, but that just kind of goes to how awkward the quest is.
Revenge of the Wild with this. 8
That's
mana,
still 8
14 1/1s.
It's still 8
Yeah,
mana.
it's probably not. I'd give this a 2 probably.
Yeah, I think it's a 2, and it's probably. I mean, in Arena, it's probably a little bit better.
Yeah, I'd say a
just
3.
because. Yeah, it's probably a 3. So next up is my mouse not scrolling. There we go. Next up is Hyena Alpha, which is a 4-mana 3/3 battle cry. If you control a secret, summon 2/2/2 hyenas. This is really good. Like, Spellstone was good. Like, even when you only hit it for 3, like it's funny that it feels like Spellstone was forever ago. Spellstone was 4 months ago, right? Right. I guess 5 months ago if you count the nerf, but even then it still saw some play. So like if you're playing, you play Rat Trap as a secret in almost every deck, and Rat Trap very often will not get procced by turn 4. So it's very easy to work in a secret on turn 6 even. And I mean, this is a 4-mana 7/7 if you get it to trigger, and I don't think it's that hard to get it to trigger in a Secret Hunter. I think this is a lot stronger than it looks like. And 3 minions, I mean, yeah, they die to AoE, but other than that, like, having 3 minions, especially in a deck where you can run something like a Scavenging Hyena, and it's a beast, so you can run it in a mid-range hunter that's just running enough secrets and isn't necessarily running, like a Subject 9 package, or maybe it's a hybrid, beast secret hunter, which is a thing that you could do also. Like, there's a lot of ways you can use this, and it feels really strong to be able to get that effect on turn 4, and I think you will be able to get that to go off on curve a lot.
The thing that's tough for me is, like, what are you taking out of Secret Hunter in order to play this? I know it's a lot of stats, but I don't know, like, the role that it fills that Secret Hunter is missing right now, I guess.
I imagine what you would probably do is you would probably go for a beast hunter with Subject 9, like a hybrid hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And where you're taking out things like Secret Keeper and Mass Contender to make room for Master's Call. Because this is a beast, and those aren't.
So you just have beasts with a secret package?
Yeah, I mean, you still have Eagle Hornbow, you still have, Subject 9 drawing your deck down, and then that makes it so that, like, the Dire Frenzies are more impactful when you get them off.
Okay.
You can still run Kill Command and stuff like that with it. Like, I don't know if that's the right thing to do, but I think that's a place where you could fit it. And I think that even then, like, there are cards in Secret Hunter that you probably, like, you maybe you could play fewer marked shots. Like,
mark shots. So
you play
good.
This instead of mark shot.
Yeah,
it is. I'm trying to think, or like, there's always like the one of Baited Arrow, and this is kind of that, right?
Sure. Yeah, I would run this over Baited Arrow probably. That's really where I've struggled though, is that, like, Hunter lists are so tight right now that even though this is a 4-mana 7/7, like, I don't know that they need that kind of. They have Rat Trap, which is a 2-mana 6/6, which I think you want instead. I think there's potential here. I'm just not as sold that this is going to be everywhere all at once. I can see myself hating it down the road, but I don't know.
Oh, you know what? I'm looking at Baby Bear's top 100 Legend Secret Hunter from last month, and she's running 2 Life Drinkers. I think you probably can just slot that in right there.
Yeah, that's a good point. So
or even like Unleash the Hounds, depending on the meta. Like, you can work some of that stuff out. I think you can make room for it.
I would go with a 4 just because I think it's a little more awkward than you're giving it credit for. But when you run it, like, especially when you get this on curve, it's just devastating. And there are very few ways to deal with all of those stats at once outside of, like, Flame Strike or Frost Nova Doomsayer or something like that.
Yeah, and especially if you're running things like Hyena, like, that gets kind of scary in a hurry.
This is Hyena, Steve.
Oh, Scavenging.
Are you saying there's a Hyena deck?
You go full Hyena. That's what you're gonna do.
You never go full Hyena. Never.
Oh.
In Arena, is it 3?
It's
2?
Probably a 2, just because it's understated, unless you happen to get a lot of secrets, and you generally don't draft secrets if you can help it, because they're generally not high impact. You might draft, like, Secret Plan, and then and if you get a lot of those, but you'd have to get a lot of those, and you're generally not going to get that battle cry to go off.
Good point. Next one here is Ramkahen. I hope I'm saying that right. Ramakin? I want to say Ramekin,
sure.
but that's not how it's spelled. So Ramkahen.
It's pronounced Farfignugan.
There it is. Wild Tamer, 3 mana, 4/3 minion, battlecry, copy a random beast in your hand. When I first saw this, I was like, we've seen the copy, beast in your hand, and that doesn't really do anything. And then I started thinking, well, this is a 3 mana, 4/3. Those are actually fine stats. And then I started thinking about Hench Clan Burglar, which is a 4 mana, 4/3, where you discover something randomly. And then I thought, well, if you've got a beast in your hand that you really want, just drawing an extra copy of it actually seems pretty good. So I went the full round on this, where I really didn't think it was worth a second look. And then I thought, actually, this card could be strangely good, in fact. So I don't know. What's your hypothesis been on this?
Well, my problem with this card is that there's another card that costs 3 mana that draws you 3 beasts if the only cards in your deck are beasts.
Oh, yeah.
And this does not have a beast tag.
That's true.
So maybe in April this will be relevant, but as long as Master's Call is in the format, I can't see you playing this deck because like you're never going to have enough beasts. I mean, again, maybe in a Highlander deck, but like you'd have to have a lot of beasts, and you'd have to have beasts that you care about in order to run this. And the deck that's running those beasts has Master's Call, and this is going to break that. So I think for that reason alone, it's a 2 in Constructed.
Well, the only other card that's worth considering is Ursatron, which replaces itself by getting you another mech. This is an additional attack. I mean, the beast tag not being there does hurt it. I mean, I also don't want there to be an infinite loop Wild Tamer deck, I guess. So so maybe that's a good thing. But I think that the effect is potentially strong. It's just right now it's not going to find a place. I wouldn't want to go lower than 3.
It'll be a fine
honestly.
card in April.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to go lower than 3 on this.
I guess I'm not going to fight it too hard, but yeah, it's not going to see play until April, just because like Master's Call's too, unless Master's Call gets nerfed or something.
Right.
If Master's Call gets nerfed, then we can, and which it might. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, the card
if
is
it does,
insane.
and if Master's Call gets nerfed, then we'll talk about this, and then we can, and then I'm looking forward to the arguments like we had with Fungalmancer, where everybody tells me that I was wrong for marking this card low, and then forget the fact that Bone Mare was 7 mana at the time, and you never played Fungalmancer until Bone Mare was 8 mana. Dang. Not that I'm bitter.
Bone Mare was a card, man. We've had some reviews. We've learned a thing or two. In Arena, the stats are fine, and if you have one beast in hand, I don't think you even care if it's a bad beast. Like, just getting...
I don't even think you care if you have a beast. It's a 3 mana 4/3.
Yeah, it's fine on its own, and then if you get the effect, it's really good. We'll probably go 3 on that too. It could be much higher though, depending on what you're...
It's a 3 mana 4/3 with upside. That's good enough to get into an Arena deck.
That's good.
So Hunter's Pack is a 3 mana common spell. Add a random hunter, beast, secret, and weapon to your hand. So this screams Reno filler to me.
Absolutely.
Like there's not really any other reason you put this in a constructed deck, because you just never going to have room for it. The deck where you will have room for it is a deck that is running single copies of everything.
Mm-hmm. I think if we have another spell hunter list, you would put this in there too, just to kind of generate some stuff. Yeah, essentially.
That's fair. That's fair.
And the really big draw for me with this card is the weapon part, because the pool is very small and pretty good overall. I mean, you got Eaglehorn Bow and Gladiator's Bow in the classic set. You've got Desert Spear that we'll talk about next, and Headhunter's Hatchet. So I don't feel like I'm upset with any of those.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. The secrets are all fairly good. Beast is the one that probably could be very good or very bad. So
they're also class beasts, and the class beasts on average are very good.
Yeah. So it's decently strong potentially. It's just not going to fit in any archetypes right now. So it's a tough one to evaluate. I oscillate between 3. It's probably a 3 right now at least.
Yeah, and probably for Arena also. Like it's a good value generator, but again, it's very slow.
Yeah, but Arena I would go 4 just because like this gets you cards, and there aren't a lot of card draw effects for Hunter right now. So I think I would snap pick this in Arena.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also just random stuff, right? Like you would generally still rather have a card that you pick is going to be higher value than 3 cards that you don't on average.
Mm-hmm. But if you don't have card draw in your deck, you're not likely to win, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying 3 mana for that. I I went up to 3 for the other one, so I'm staying with 3.
Okay, all right. I'll concede to that. That's good mental break there.
This is card review Pawn Stars edition is what this is.
Right. You have to know when to hold them and when to fold them. Okay, we got Desert Spear next. 3 mana, 1/3 weapon. After your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 Locust with Rush. So essentially you're doing 2 damage. So it's like a 3 mana 2/3, but you've got this upside potentially of these Locusts living. I don't know. The tough thing for me is that you really get the value of the Locust if it doesn't attack into anything. But the point of Rush is that it attacks into something. And as a 3 mana 1/3, it's an okay like weapon for Arena, but in Standard, why do you play this?
I think you play it because it's still better than Headhunter's Hatchet, and Headhunter's Hatchet is seeing play now. Like if you think about what Headhunter's Hatchet is doing in like a mid-range hunter, which is effectively a tech against Token Druid right now, where you're using that to like clean up a lot of little tokens, and in that case, actually having a one attack with your face and 1 attack with a minion is actually better because you can split the damage up a little bit better, and you're guaranteed to get 3 swings with it. Whereas with Headhunter's Hatchet, you have to stick a minion or you have to play a minion alongside it. So I think for that reason, I don't think it's a great card, but I think it's better than a card that's currently seeing play in a deck. And for that reason, I would think it's a 3.
Yeah, 3's fine for me on that.
Yeah.
I'm not quite as sold because Headhunter's Hatchet can just go face, which a lot of mid-range hunters.
So can this.
Yeah, but the Locust doesn't, and then you're just dealing 1 damage.
Yeah, but I mean, when it goes face, I mean, one of those swings that goes face, you could do just hero powered.
But why not both? I think 3's fair. I'm not totally sold on it yet, but I think it's a good place for it. In Arena, it's a little bit better because weapons are just really good there. So I'd be willing to go up to a 4. I think my gut still says 3 though.
Yeah, I think it's probably still a 3. I could argue up to a 4 too, but I'm not feeling it.
If neither of us are arguing, then we shouldn't argue.
Yeah. And then Pressure Plate is a 2 mana secret. After your opponent casts a spell, destroy a random enemy minion. So the effect is not the greatest because you generally don't want your opponent to control that. On the other hand, this is forcing them to test for one more thing. So even if you don't put it in your deck or it's not actually out, it's still going to have an effect.
Oh yeah, it's good that it exists. Yeah. Like a discounted deadly shot that you don't control is just so tough for me because you're already working hard with deadly shot sometimes to get it just right. So I'm pretty skeptical that Pressure Plate's going to be worth it in your deck. If you get it off a random effect, that's fine. And honestly, if it sees 0 play, people won't actually go for it or play around it or anything. So I don't know. I want to believe,
but I mean, misdirection catches people sometimes. That's true, right? Like misdirection almost never gets put in a deck, and then every once in a while, either somebody does or Secret Plan is still a card.
Yeah, so I'd probably put it at a 2 for now.
Yeah, I think it's probably a 3. I think it's a little bit better than it's getting credit for, just because, I mean, you are still blowing up a minion. And you're making your opponent think about it. Yeah. Like, even if you're not playing the card, the fact that it exists and it's going to make your opponent think twice before they cast a spell with a minion on board or play a bunch of minions that they don't want to try to protect one that they do before they cast a spell they need to cast, I think that's valuable.
Okay. I'll go up to a 3. In Arena... Yep. I mean,
in Arena, you don't draft secrets if you can help it.
Yeah, it is removal, though. It's soft. It's weird removal.
It's removal that you can't. I mean, how often you can even have games where your opponent just doesn't have spells.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
Like, that I don't think it happens quite as often in Arena now than as it used to. But I know I've had games where I've drafted something like Cat Trick or whatever and just sat there and looked at it the whole game. It's like, so in Arena, I think it's even less likely. Like you're pretty guaranteed that your opponent's gonna have spells and constructed. In Arena, you can get away with just drafting minions sometimes.
Sure. We'll put that in as a 2 then. Well, before we jump into the mage cards, I want to take this time real quick to let you know about something that's a really special group here at the Happy Hearthstone, and that's the Inner Fire. That's a part of the Patreon that I've set up. The Patreon has really become a special place for this show where a lot of people are joining because they really want to get better at the game. And Steve and I will both tell you that the reason we were able to get better is because of the community around us. It wasn't just because we stuck our nose in a computer computer screen and hit our head against a wall a million times, though we probably did do that more often than not, unfortunately. But the actual progress we found in gameplay was because of an intentional community around us that was helping to encourage us, point us in the right direction, share ideas and thoughts about the game. And the Inner Fire is absolutely that. So for $10 a month or more on the Patreon, you can join that group. We have an exclusive Discord channel, and we'll be talking and gearing up a lot with Saviors of Uldum coming out. And that's just a place where I'm sharing daily thoughts as far as the meta, deck list, and all of that. So if you want to get better at this game, this is absolutely one of the best investments you can make. Not to mention also the deep dive sessions I've been doing these are exclusive. These have been somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 45 minutes. I really treat this like if I was teaching a college class on Hearthstone, what are the things I would want to go through with my students, essentially? And so these are things I've learned from private coaching sessions over the past several years, and things that apply to everyone as far as mindset and how to play the game. And you can get access to the 3 sessions I've done so far, and also future ones. I do one a month for that group, where they get to join me live, and then I give the replays to them as well. So if that interests you at all, you can go and check it out over at patreon.com/thehappyhearthstone. And I always have to thank those of you over there who are helping to make the show happen and investing in yourself too. Really is an honor to walk alongside you, and appreciate the support, of course, for the show as well. All right, mage cards, Steve. Let's get them. Let's raid this temple.
Me?
This is you right here. Yep.
Okay. So Raid the Sky Temple is the mage quest. The quest is cast 10 spells. Reward is Ascendant Scroll, and Ascendant Scroll changes your hero power to pay 2 mana, generate a random mage spell. So this seems really good. I feel like you will see it tried in Cyclone Mage. I don't know if it stays there, but I do know I cannot imagine it's not going to be tried, because like one of the things that's really important with Cyclone Mage is just having cards in hand. It sometimes doesn't even matter what they are. It's because you don't necessarily need to play them all. You just want your Mountain Giants to be cheap, and you just want to have stuff to be able to fuel like a Mana Cyclone. So even just generating those cards, and the ping does fall off about mid game. Now Cyclone Mage is also a deck that is very, very dependent on its mulligan. So taking one card away from that may not be what you want to do. So I don't know if the only thing that makes me wonder about this deck, this card, because you can 100% get this quest off real early. 100%.
You think real early? Yeah. Because that's been the thing I've been kind of doubling back on is, at first, to me, casting 10 spells in a deck like that, well, that deck just wants to do this. So, like, this just adds to that, essentially. But the more I've thought about it, like, 10 spells is a lot. This isn't quite summon 20 minions, but it isn't also, like, the unspent mana for 4 turns, essentially.
I mean, it kind of is, though, because, like, you play Magic Trick, you play Ray of Frost. Those are both 2 spells apiece.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Like, you're generating a whole bunch of, like if you look at all the mage spells, most of them are pretty cheap. Like, there's, like, 6 or 7 that are more than 5 mana, because I did the math on that when I was looking at one of the other cards that got revealed, and a lot of them are real cheap. And, like, I've been playing some Quest Mage in Wild, which, by the way, if you've not seen that deck, that is
disgusting.
Something.
That is beyond something.
And that you can get the quest, which is 6 spells that didn't start in your deck, done by like turn 5 or 6 very often. Again, that's Wild. Everything is broken in Wild. But I don't think that in Cyclone Mage it's going to be that hard to do. I think the question is, how much are you willing to give up in your mulligan for it? And that's where I think it might fall off a little bit.
Yeah, it's potentially strong. With Cyclone Mage and Conjurer's Mage being strong enough right now, I don't think that they need this or that they want it, because they've got enough. This is sort of a fallback. I've been playing a lot of Cyclone Mage the past few days because I realized I basically never played it this past meta, so I wanted to give it a try in these final days. And there are definitely games that I play where I just don't have the cards that I need, and so maybe if I can get the 10 spells and then have a button that gives me something, I would like that. But it's just more awkward than I thought. So there's potential. I think it's probably a 4 at the highest, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't go higher than 4. We're, as they're saying in chat, like, what do you cut? I think that's the problem too. Is like it's a very tight deck. I'm not sure what you would cut for it. I mean, you can play this to power a Mana Cyclone though. Like, that's another thing to keep in mind. Like, you don't need to play this on one.
Mm-hmm.
You could save this for a Mana Cyclone turn. And then that's one of your spells, maybe with an apprentice. So you can do that. Like, what are you cutting? I couldn't tell you. I don't know. And that's why I'm not going up to a 5. But I think that there could be. I don't think it's that hard to hit 10 spells, and I think that effect could be powerful in the right context. But yeah, I can't go to a 5 on it. I think it's probably a 4.
The hero power being infinite in value definitely is strong potentially. There's just not a place for it. I cannot imagine that Conjurer's Mage is going to stay in its current state through this year and the next. So I think at some point this might start seeing some more play and be more of a valuable asset for you to have. Well, let's move on to the leaguer of the explorers, Reno the Relicologist, 6 mana 4/6 legendary mage minion battle cry. If your deck has no duplicates, deal 10 damage randomly split among all enemy minions. And by the way, got to toot my horn, when I did the episode where I was trying to guess what the League of Explorers cards would be. This is definitely the closest that I got as far as the Arcane Missiles thing. Although that Gatling gun, I don't even know what it's called. It kind of gave it away. So 10 damage is a lot. Randomly split. In the Dalaran Heist, there's a 4 mana spell that deals 20 damage or like something insane split among all enemies, and that card was just busted. This is not that, and yet it's also not like nothing. I don't know. The really hard thing for me is that these can't go face, So this is more of a guaranteed clear. I think that maybe in a control mage or something, this could be interesting, but I just struggle to see this being something that you really need or want.
Yeah, I mean, I see why you want it. I mean, you want it because you're playing half as many board clears in your deck, and this is a board clear. I mean, Dinomatic's a good card. Like, we can agree on that.
Sure, yeah.
And this is basically double Dinomatic, right? This is Dinomatic, Shadow Step Dinomatic is what this is. And that's fine, right? Like, that's a good effect. Again, we go back to, do you really want to be making your deck inconsistent to get that? I don't think that's enough of a payoff.
Yeah.
So that's where I start falling off with it. I think that if you're going to, you play this, and maybe it's a 4 because of that. Because, like, you're not playing, if you're going to play a Highlander deck, you're going to play this, and it's going to be relevant when you play it. Unlike the brand is kind of hit or miss, because it's like, the payoff is even questionable. Here, the payoff is reasonable.
Yeah.
But, like, is that enough? I don't think it is, but I'm willing to go up to probably I don't necessarily want to go to as high as a 4, but
I think 3's right for it, and here's why. It's potentially a good card, and it's good for the Reno deck, but you're playing this because you want to, or for a payoff, and this isn't the payoff. This is probably a good utility tool because the Reno decks need a lot of different cards that can clear the board, that can deal with things that your opponent's doing, and this can do that, but it's not the reason you want to play it. So it's like this back and forth where it's like, why are we even playing a Reno Mage deck to begin with? There's not a good answer other than you got this as your free legendary off a pre-order or something like that. So I think 3 is the right place for it, and maybe in the future it'll become better if we see more of these. If your deck has no duplicates and there's something that's a better payoff, then maybe Mage makes sense, because Mage has a lot of great utility spells and effects. So
or if it just gets enough good cards that it doesn't matter and they're all good. Like, that's why you would play those Highlander decks in the past. But again, this is like the whole point of these kinds of cards are to offset the fact that you have that much variance, and like, that's what Reno originally was supposed to do. Like, yeah, you're going to have all that variance, but you're also going to be able to heal for 30.
Right.
So that'll cover it. I don't think this does that.
I hate to say Reno doesn't fit in a Reno deck, but it's true. So I don't know. This is where we are. This is definitely the most, I guess this and Brand together, we're just kind of like, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
In Arena, the effect's really powerful. You just don't know if you're going to get it for sure. But it's another board clear, essentially.
Again, it goes back to all of the Highlander cards. If it depends on when you get it offered in the draft.
Yeah.
Because if you get it offered in the draft early enough that you can draft around it and draft for it, you would 100% take that effect.
Sure,
no question. And if not, it's a 6 mana 4/6. It's not as bad as Bran, because Bran is a 7 mana 2/4. A 6 mana 4/6 I mean, that's Skulking Geist, right?
Can you imagine?
So
Can you imagine if you could brand Conjurer's Calling? There you go. That's what you want.
okay, well, and you'll get it off of Astromancer. You just won't get the
Oh, that's
battle card.
true. Yeah, never mind. So 3, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's threes across the board.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, now here's the card that has everybody biting their fingernails. So Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron. 10 mana spell, cast 10 random spells, targets chosen randomly. Okay. I am a self-avowed Yogg savant. I got Yogg very early in Old Gods, and I played a lot of Yoggs. And this is about as fair as you could make a Yogg card. Generally, the problem with Yogg, and the reason that Yogg needed to get nerfed, is because it would play an enormous amount of spells and it would continue going regardless. This is capped at 10, which is generally around the low end of how many spells you wanted to play before you would play Yogg to get some sort of a consistent effect. And the other reason that Yogg became such a problem is because in Karazhan they introduced all the portals, which did something and also summoned a random minion for you. So you were almost guaranteed to have a board at the end of a Yogg. That's not really the case now. I think that this is basically a board clear for Mage. This is basically like Lightning Storm on steroids, is really what this is. And sometimes it's going to do fantastic things, and sometimes it's going to do literally nothing. And it's, but it's going to be a Hail Mary. And I think that that's fine, right? Because, like, Mage doesn't have a legit board clear that can deal with minions that are bigger than 4 right now, aside from, like, Frost Nova Doomsayer. It just doesn't have anything to deal with that. We lost Dragon's Fury. We lost Meteor. There's no way for Mage to deal with a board of big minions. This will let it get access to board clears from other classes potentially. And I think that that's worth including. And I don't think that it's going to end up being as problematic as Yogg was. I think this is probably the most balanced way that they could do this. I don't know that it was worth taking this risk, but I think that it will end up being a fair card.
When I think during a time when Conjure and Cyclone Mage are so powerful, having this be something you can get off of some of those effects really throws a wrench in there, essentially, because you really don't want to cast this at all. So even just having a blanket card is probably good for that. But I think the effect, I mean, it is pre-nerf Yogg, and even though it's capped at 10 is enough to do some stuff. Sometimes it's going to work out for you, sometimes it's not, but I think more often than not it's going to work out for you, at least even marginally. I watch Ali Straza play a big spell mage on the preview streams, and she was definitely running 2 of these, and it was definitely messing with her and with her opponent.
Yeah.
I do like the fun of Yogg, so and it definitely felt that way where she played the card and the entire audience is just captivated, like, what's going to happen? So even just the fact that we have a card that does that again is great. And I think that there are some interesting tools this go around that can take advantage of a deck that's really trying to be insane. So I couldn't agree more with what you said, that, like, this is probably the best way to do this. And it's probably a strong card. I would say it's a 4, probably.
Yeah, I think it's a 4. You probably only play one of them. It's like Pyroblast. You're going to play one of them, and it'll be either terrible or amazing if you get this off a random effect, depending on how far behind you are.
Yeah.
But and in Arena, it's probably the same thing.
It's a reset button.
Like, again, it's a removal. It's a board clear, and maybe
draw some cards, summon some minions. You don't know what's going to happen, but it's probably going to be okay at least.
You're probably gonna destroy some minions. You're probably gonna draw some cards, and then some other stuff will happen. So I think it's probably a 4 in that context also.
Sounds good. All right, next one here is Arcane Flak Mage, 2 mana, 3/2. After you play a secret, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. This is another card that I've been scratching my head about. Like, it's potentially a powerful effect, but I don't think that this is why you run, or that you really want this in some kind of secret mage. Like, if this were spawning minions, if this were dealing damage to the opponent's face, or at least, like, spread around, I might be more interested. This just feels kind of clunky to me.
I mean, it feels like we don't have enough tools for a secret mage.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the way that secrets seem to be lining up for this standard, at least. I mean, wild is a whole other story.
Sure.
Because you still have Alaneth and explosive runes and all kinds of nonsense in wild. But in standard, you really are looking at it as like a control type deck. You're playing counter spells. You're playing maybe splitting image, right? You're playing mirror entity, those types of things, and the problem that I have is that the kind of deck that would be able to take advantage of this is not putting secrets in its deck naturally.
Yeah.
But maybe if there's like a control style mage, and I don't think this is a Highlander mage, because I think even though you can play a whole bunch of like random secrets, I think you probably want to be playing 2 of these to be able to do anything with it. But I mean, you do have ways to get these to cheat those secrets out. Even if not, it's like 5 mana, deal 2 damage, summon a 3/2. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's also not. It's not exciting.
Yeah. The stats are fine. It's just the activator costs you so much.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have a ton of unending secrets to be able to chain off of this. So I kind of want to go with 2 on this. Like maybe there's potential down the line, but I feel like it's counterintuitive to what that deck really wants to do, which is go face.
Yeah, I feel like it might get better. But right now I'll agree with you. I think it's probably a 2. And in Arena it's a 3 because it's 2 mana 3/2.
Yeah,
that has
those
upside.
Are fine stats.
That's fine.
Yep.
Yeah. Dune Sculptor is a 3 mana 3/3 that says after you cast a spell, add a random mage minion to your hand. No.
Talk about confusing cards.
I like where you're gonna play this in Cyclone Mage, right? Like that's where this card goes, or that's where that card would fit, right? Because you are playing a deck that is going to spam a lot of spells and then generate more, right? Because you need a decent like you can play Vex Crow, and Vex Crow isn't played, right? So like, and if you're playing enough spells in a turn to get value out of this, you're probably following it up with the Mana Cyclone, which means you want the space in your hand for more spells.
Right.
So I don't know when you play this unless you've gotten it generated from another random effect, which, I mean, again, in a Highlander deck, maybe you play this. Maybe that's where this fits. Because, like, you just need some value generation,
a generator,
right?
Yeah. And I
so
heard
maybe that's the answer.
I heard language hackers saying that maybe this fits in like a specialist lineup where like in the if you're up against a warrior opponent, having more value can be helpful. But I think even there you're stretching, to find a really good place where this makes sense.
Yeah.
So.
There are also a lot of really bad mage minions. Like
that's true.
Like I don't want to get too hung up on that because it's just like random value and you'll get some high rolls too. But like we've already talked about like 2. I mean, I guess you'll get more out of this, right? Like you'll get the whole the Murloc whatchamacallit, underbelly angler effect where you get another one from this, right?
Sure,
like
yeah.
that'll happen too, but it's like we've already talked about 2 minions that are just kind of and the next one we're going to talk about is even worse.
Is this a 1?
I think it's a 2 because it's probably got some effect that I'm not thinking about, but it feels awkward.
Yeah. In Arena, it's a 3. Like
it's
you're
3.
You're far more likely to get value off of it and be happy with whatever you get. But you're not.
And it's
really
a 3 mana
excited to
3/3. You could just coin after it, and it'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
Like,
cool. Next one here is the Naga Sand Witch. Do you get it? I love this. 5 mana 5/5 battle cry. Change the cost of spells in your hand to 5. So. If you're running a big spell mage, this could make sense. The problem is there's just not a lot of stuff that really fits there. In that deck I mentioned Ali Straza was playing, she was running these, and at one point like she had 1 copy of Blizzard in her hand, and it was like, okay, discount it by 1.
Yay,
yeah,
we did it.
Glad we put that in there. I feel like the one really useful thing with this is comboing with Pyroblast. So if you've got 2 of those in your hand, then all of a sudden you've got a 20 damage turn coming up. So I wonder if there's some kind of combo list where this fits, but I just don't know if that's accurate or not. So like that's all I can think of where it would actually work.
Like the way that I would see this being really oppressive is like, okay, well, we've got Pocket Galaxy. We put this out for 1, and then we still can't play 2 10-mana spells. It's like, because you still have to play the Sandwich for 1, and then that's one of your 10 mana. So it's like, even then you can't double Pyroblast in the same turn without point. And it's like, if you look at the spells in Standard that cost more than 5, this is the list. Pyroblast, Puzzle Box, Power of Creation, Blizzard, and Flame Strike. That is it. That is the list. And it's like, okay, so is it really worth it just for that? Like, you can't even really, like, this has to stick a turn in order for you to be able to make any use out of it. The only time that Naga Sea Witch saw play was with Giants, because they got discounted down below 5 after the effect took place.
Right.
That's the only time that Naga Sea Witch for the, and it didn't see play at all in Standard when it was legal in Standard, because that change only happened afterward. Mm-hmm. So the only time that Naga Sea Witch has seen play before or since is when you could discount those spells below. So if there is a way to get spells that you can discount with some other way, and then start them at 5, then I'm interested. Until then, this is a 1.
The only pushback, and this is more out of being devil's advocate here, is like, we're going to get more spells that are costly for a mage. So like, I could see down the line this being somewhat helpful. I'll stick with the other one.
But I mean, like the scenario, the normal scenario, right, is on 10 mana, you get to develop a 5/5 behind one of those spells. That's it. Right. Like, which is not nothing.
It's like Ingmaster Celia, isn't it?
And how much play did Ingmaster Celia see play?
Yep.
0.
So I'll go 1 on that. In Arena, it's a 5-mana 5/5, but
yeah, that's fine. It's probably a 3. It's a 5-mana 5/5. The spells in your hand, you probably don't have that many. And
hopefully
it's probably
you don't have
not
many.
that big of a and you can just wait. I mean, if you're drafting a spell heavy list, then you probably don't just skip this.
No.
Cloud Prince is a 5-mana 4/4 elemental battlecry. If you control a secret, deal 6 damage. So 6 damage is a lot of damage. That's a fireball. Mm-hmm. So this is a fireball on a stick, which is good.
1 mana 4/4.
But you have to have a secret and control it. So this is if you can stick the secret, this is great. There's not a secret you can guarantee to stick anymore, because Ice Block is no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
In Wild, this could certainly be a thing, especially with Bran.
It's probably disgusting.
I don't know if you even have room for it in the Wild Secret Mage, but I'm sure you could probably find room for it. In Standard, again, if you're playing a Highlander deck that has a bunch of secrets in it because you need to fill out the room, then maybe you play one of these and just hope for the best. I don't know. It's good if you can get it to happen. It's just, how easy is it going to be, given what we have in Standard right now, to get this to go off?
I think that there are actually lots of times when your secrets stick. Like, it's not...
Yeah, Spellbender, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got very... Like, I feel like it's all across the board as far as what triggers them. So there's this one specific thing that will trigger your secret, and I think that you can build a deck where you're likely to get this off, because developing a 4/4 and casting Fireball for 5 is just insane on its own. So I don't think that it's asking too much of you. It is a challenge, especially in the class where secrets are the priciest. But I think it's a challenge that you can work with. I think it's at least a 4. Because
I'd go there.
There's a lot of potential for this.
I mean, there's going to be some sort of a secret mage at some point, and this will be part of it. And I mean, even if it's not until like the set that gets unveiled at BlizzCon a year from now to make sure that these cards get played, which they'll do if they haven't by then. Mm-hmm. So at some point this will see play, and I think when it happens, I mean, if there's a secret mage, this will be part of it. So yeah, I'd say it's a 4. In Arena, it's probably a 2, because good luck getting the secret to stick, drawing this along with it, tough. And then otherwise it's a 5-mana 4/4. Yeah, which is not the worst thing in the world, but it's not what you want.
It's not what you want. If you can activate it, then I mean, it's the definition of tempo, but probably not in Arena. Flame Ward is the next mage spell. It's common. It's a secret. After a minion attacks your hero, deal 3 damage to all enemy minions. So this is an upgraded explosive trap, but it doesn't hit your opponent's face, and it's only a minion attacking your hero. So it's a little bit different, but mostly it's a cheap AoE spell. This is great for delaying into the mid or late game against like Token Druid or mid-range Hunter or something like that. If your opponent's Token Druid has played Soul of the Forest, then sorry, they still have 2/2s behind it. But at least it can delay things for a turn and get one more round out of the way. I like it. I think it's not anything too flashy, but it's a really good tool in the Mage's kit.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of the time, you just need something to kill off stuff after they've played Soul of the Forest, so that they can't hit your face. And so, and I actually think that not that it having to be a minion that attacks your hero is actually a net positive, because that means that your opponent can't just trigger it for no cost with a weapon, which very often is what happens with explosive traps. They'll just hit face first and then trigger it. So I think that you kind of need something like this. Vaporize is not good enough, and so I like this. And you know that you can have this or Ice Barrier, and it's like choose your poison. Again, you need to put this and another secret in your deck, which is probably Counterspell, if we're being honest. So that's not really that big of an ask, but you need to find room in your deck for secrets without being able to play minions that are going to get them out. So I think it's probably still a 4. I think you'll play it. Yeah. You'll definitely get it generated, and you'll be fine with it. So, and 3 damage is enough to usually clear a lot of those tokeny boards. It's certainly enough to clear a Murloc War Leader, which Explosive Trap doesn't do.
Yeah, that's true. In an arena, I mean, as an AoE, it's pretty good.
Yeah, but it's an AoE you don't control, and it still involves you playing a secret and drafting a secret. Maybe it's better than most secrets. Maybe I'd go up to a 3 on it, but
I wouldn't go lower than a 3. So I guess that's where
we are then. That's how math works. We did it.
It is, absolutely. And I think this last one
is this mine?
Yeah.
Okay. Ancient Mysteries is a 2-mana secret, a 2-mana spell. Draw a secret from your deck. It costs 0. I guess if you're playing secrets, this is probably good, because being able to get those secrets out when you need them, and then being able to play it for free, especially again in a deck that is running things like Mana Cyclone or anything else that relies on volume of spells. Like, I could see you maybe running secrets in Cyclone Mage instead of some of the other spells if you're doing this. Maybe not. I know it's kind of a strong thing, but sometimes you do need anti-aggro, right? So I could see like a package of like a Flame Ward and a Counterspell and 2 copies of Ancient Mysteries. Sure. I don't know what you take out for that, but I could see it happening, right? And then if you're playing 2 spells in a turn for 2 mana, and then that pumps up your Mana Cyclone, now all of a sudden you kind of have a game plan together.
And this is the only instance where Arcane Flak Mage makes sense to me, honestly, because the big downside that this takes away is that your secrets cost 3. That is a lot of mana to be investing and comboing with other effects or Cloud Prince. So this, being able to tutor it out and discounting it to 0, it actually is way stronger than I thought. When I first saw it. I was like, this is an Arcanologist. I want Arcanologist. But just the fact that you're discounting that spell and tutoring it out, it's actually pretty good, I think. I'm way higher than on this card than I anticipated 6 hours ago. I think it's a 4, honestly.
Yeah, it's like the exact opposite of Glacial Mysteries.
Oh, you had to bring that up, man. I miss Glacial Mysteries.
Hey, look, we're gonna talk about my pet card later.
That's true. You have to
glorious detail.
You do. So, we almost made it through the mage cards without Glacial Mysteries, but it had to come. So in Arena, I don't think you ever choose this.
No. I mean, that involves drafting secrets and then getting this. And as Kibler showed us in the card reveal, sometimes you play it and it does literally nothing except make your opponent emote.
That was sad. So, I do think it's a 1, because it's like, if you have secrets in your deck, then sure, drawing one of them for sure is fine. But that's the only.
It's like Totemic Might. It's like on that level.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay.
On
to the Paladin. I think this is you.
Is it me? I thought I started the mage. I thought I started the mages. I think this one is you.
Oh no, you're right. Yep. Okay, so we are moving on, and we're making mummies. I can't remember who asked for that. I think it was Deck Tech. But he said no one was saying that, and when he tweeted it out, I was like, I know exactly what you're asking for, man. Mickey Mummies, 1-mana quest for Paladin. The quest is play 5 Reborn minions, and the reward is Emperor Wraps. I'm going to have to remember real quick what Emperor Wraps does, because it's actually pretty complex.
Summon a 2/2 copy of a minion that has Reborn, if I remember correctly.
That has Reborn?
I think it gives the minion that you summon Reborn. That sounds ridiculous now that I'm saying it, but we both also gave this card 5 spoilers, so I think that might be what it is. I feel like I need the intermission music from Monty Python.
Yeah, that would be nice too.
The people responsible for sacking the people who designed the cards with text not on the card have now been sacked.
Okay, here we go. Oh, come on. It's loading. It's loading.
You can do it, play Hearthstone. We believe in you.
Okay, Emperor Wraps is a 2-mana hero power. Summon a 2/2 copy of a friendly minion. So this is...
Oh, it doesn't give it Reborn? Okay, it's just a copy of it. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are definitely ways to take advantage of this. Playing 5 Reborn minions is not too crazy. We've seen some powerful Reborn. I think you have enough to justify making the deck. Yeah. The tough thing is like the payoff for this. Like, if the effect is really strong, then this feels like it could be a build your own Muckmorpher thing, but the minion has to be on the board. So it just feels clunky to me overall. Like, it definitely has potential, but I'm not as high on this as I was initially. I think I saw this and just said, oh my gosh, creating copies of whatever you want, that's insane. But I feel like it's asking a lot out of you to build your deck with Reborn minions and then have something on the board. I don't know. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking that if you're playing this, then a lot of your minions, even if they're not going to get Reborn, are going to have Reborn.
Probably.
And so you're going to have a lot of minions that are going to be sticking around. You're going to be making 2/2 copies of them. Now, I mean, again, is it worth messing up your mulligan? Probably not. Probably not. Now that I think about it that way, I think I probably read the card wrong originally when I scored it. But, I mean, you do have ways to abuse card text, like death rattles are a thing. Especially in...
Yeah, this is great with death rattles too, yeah.
Like Mechano Egg immediately comes to mind, right? Like,
ooh,
okay,
gross.
so now you can get a 2/2 that drops an 8/8 that you can actually attack with and kill it off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and there's other things like that you can do. Yeah, I'm probably down to a 3 on it.
I would just...
It feels clunky.
Yeah, I think 3's probably right. It has potential, and with the right cards around it, it can do a lot, but it's just, it's going to take you a while to get there. And
Paladin's Reborn minions are not terrible, but they're not great.
Yeah, so I think 3's the right place to land on this. Yep. And anyway, Finley being a necromancer is just...
I was not expecting that.
The art is great. It feels a little bit weird, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I played Necromancer in Diablo too, so I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Then you have more experience than most, but regardless, the Man of the Sands is just fine.
So Sir Finley of the Sands, my fishy BFF. 2 mana 2/3 battle cry. If your deck has no duplicates, discover an upgraded hero power. So this is a legitimate payoff. It is not Baku again because you cannot build your deck around that hero power, which is what made things like Odd Paladin and Odd Warrior and Odd Rogue so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, all those effects are good, and that is a payoff for not putting duplicates in your deck. That said, this is a Keleseth effect where if you draw this and play it on curve, it is fantastic. If you're drawing it and playing it on turn 15,
right,
less so. And so you're going to have more variance in your deck based on where Finley decides to show up. Again, is it worth building a Paladin deck that has no duplicates? Well, we really don't have. I mean, you have Mech Paladin and Holy Wrath Paladin that are both decks. They're like tier 2 decks. maybe you just build like a mid-range good cards paladin and, you know, go for it that way. I don't know. I don't know what direction that's taking is the thing.
I mean, this feels like Blessing of Kings to me, where it's like, it's just a good card. Like, it's just the problem is you don't build a deck around Blessing of Kings. Like, it just, you kind of throw it in where and if it makes sense. So there's potential here. If you get this on turn 2, it's fantastic. Like, the fact that you'll have that upgraded hero power, and there's a very good chance one of the 3 you're offered will be just exactly what you need. But otherwise, it's ooh.
I mean, I think it's going to be people are going to build Reno Paladin, and this will be in it, and it will affect games. And I think for that reason, it's probably a 4. Because like this is the card out of the 4 of them that I would go out of my way to build a Reno Paladin for. I mean,
really,
I would say that it's the most likely to get me to go in that direction. Like Elise barely counts because we're not even building a Reno deck. We're just putting all the draw cards in, right?
Right.
So I'm not inclined to build a Reno Mage. I'm not inclined to build a Reno Hunter. I'm not super excited about Reno Paladin, but I could see it because of this card. I guess that's where I'm at with it.
If I really felt like arguing, I'd probably talk it down to 3, but I can see. I mean, it's definitely in some games going to be a 5. So I think 4 is probably where we should land on that. And in Arena, I feel very similarly, where it's like if your deck is looking that way, then this can be very good. At worst case, it's a 2-mana 2/3.
And you just draft those, right? Like you draft those regardless of what the card text is.
Yeah.
So that's a 4.
So
I mean, that's
too,
the because he's not undercosted, right? Like that's the difference.
Yeah.
The other two one is severely undercosted. The other one is mildly undercosted. This is a fair. You just draft 2-mana 2/3s regardless of what the text is on them.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep.
Next one, keep it with the Murloc synergy here. 8-mana epic spell, Tip the Scales. Summon 7 Murlocs from your deck. Holy cow.
First of all, can we just take a second before we even get into the card to just appreciate the dad joke in that name?
Oh, well, absolutely. Like, and I feel like they've done this every time there's a Murloc spell for whatever reason, and they're always quality. This seems insane to me, and I think it's because I have just very vivid memories of old Murk-Eye and Bluegill Warriors going face all the time. The thing is, like, now, in order to build a deck that takes advantage of this, Bluegill Warrior is the only thing you have in Standard, if I'm correct, with Charge. There might be something that has Rush, but I can't think. I don't think there is.
I don't think there are any Murlocs that have Rush. I think it's just that has Charge, yeah.
So, like, the best case scenario I can think of for this is that you play Prismatic Lens on 4, and then turn 5, you play Tip the Scales, and then your opponent's turn 5, they can't do anything, and then hopefully you got both your War Leaders and Bluegill Warriors and maybe whatever the Grimskill Oracle, I think, and then you just win because of that, you know. But that requires your opponent doesn't have anything on the board, that they don't have responses to you, and that you drew your Prismatic Lens. I mean, the good thing is that Murloc decks already have synergy as it is, so I feel like if you really want to build a Murloc Paladin, this is definitely a win condition that you want to put in there regardless. And you're not running many spells anyway, so you can just keep it to 2 Prismatic Lens and 2 Tip the Scales and pretty much guarantee on that. But it's asking a lot out of you, so it's tough. I want to get excited about this card, but I feel like when I think about rationally how it's going to work out, it's not quite going to be enough, which is crazy because you're filling your board and tutoring stuff out.
So let me ask you a question. Was Call to Arms a good card?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Wait, what? Call to Arms a good card?
Yeah. I mean, you're not Bodicus, so you can say yes. It's okay. But they're recording their own show. They don't even know we're saying this.
That's true.
But I mean, the thing is that I don't think you need to OTK people with this. I don't think you're going to be OTKing people with this, and that's okay, right? Like, I think that what you're doing in general with this card is you're building like a mid-range deck that has Murlocs in it, and this is getting the rest of them out so you can draw your bombs. Right? Like, if you get to turn 8 and you probably just run one of these. I can't imagine you're going to run 2 because it's not like any Fin where the second one does anything. Like the second one is like playing Ancient Mysteries without any secrets in your deck. But for the first one, what you're doing is you're getting all the rest of the little things out of your deck so you can continue to draw bombs, and that's why that card is good. Now, is that good enough at 8 mana? Maybe. I think it's going to be tried. I think that if you're going to have like a mid-range paladin, again, if you have a Highlander deck and you just want to get all the Murlocs out, because I mean, you probably don't want to play this because Finley's going to be one of them.
Yeah, I don't think you can play this in a Highlander deck.
As I'm saying that, I'm talking myself out of it. But
yeah.
I feel like as a deck thinning mechanic, if you're playing enough Murlocs, and then if you just want, like, let's say that you've got some sort of maybe you run like a weird Holy Wrath Paladin, right? Where everything that's not part of the combo is a Murloc, and then you just play this to get all that crap out of your deck all in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
Is that the right thing to do? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, but I feel like there's, this is when I go back to the cards that look really weird are often the ones that are broken, and I feel like this is close to that level.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to figure out. And I said this about Call to Arms at the time too, which is why I'm saying that. So I remember when we reviewed Call to Arms, and I remember vividly that what we said is, I don't know what minions you're pulling out of your deck, but this is going to be powerful, and someone's going to figure out how to break it. And damn, we were right.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
And I know that this is an 8 mana card and not a 4 mana card, but I feel like this is getting there, and I feel like there are enough decent Murlocs that you could probably get away with it.
I'd go with a 4 on this.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know how we're getting to a 4, but I feel like it is.
Yeah. And in Arena, we've learned from your mistakes, Steve.
Yes. I have drafted anything can happen. Pick one. Don't do that.
Just don't.
Actually, that was my. I'm gonna throw my wife under the bus because that was her suggestion.
No, I
fought against
that.
it, and she said, no, I want to try it, and I said, okay. We got one Bluegill Warrior, and we had a 10 mana Bluegill Warrior.
Yeah, not so good. Not so good.
Yeah. So next up we have Micro Mummy, which is a 2 mana 1/2 mech with Reborn. At the end of your turn, give another random friendly minion +1 attack. So I guess if you're playing the quest, you play this, but like Master Swordsmith is a card that granted doesn't have Reborn, but it has exactly the same stats otherwise, and it sees 0 play unless you get it off of a lackey. So I don't really see Micro Mummy being good enough.
If this had Reborn and Magnetize, maybe, but it doesn't. So and you don't want to play this on turn 2 because then it's not going to buff anything. Like, it's just activating the quest, and I'm sorry, but that's not good enough. So I think 2 is just where this has to live for now.
I'm down to a 1 on it.
Are you really?
Come up to it. I think this is trash tier.
Okay, let's go 1. I like that.
Yeah, and in Arena is probably a 2, just because like you can buff things. It's Reborn's probably a little bit more valuable in Arena, but again, it's Master Swordsmith with a little bit of upside.
That was easy enough. Next one here is Brazen Zealot, 1 mana 2/1 minion. Whenever you summon a minion, gain +1 attack. So this just like screams aggro paladin, right? You play this on 1 when you are playing turn 1 without the coin. Your opponent can't do anything immediately. And then the hope is that you can kind of spam minions, and I don't quite know how you're doing that on turn 2. You've got enough minions in this set that spawn other minions that you can probably get there. Yeah.
Like maybe not turn 2, but like turn 3, you have the bunny, you have Microtech Controller from Boomsday. Like you've got enough minions that summon another minion or two, along with every Reborn that dies and comes back is going to trigger this.
Is Blessing of Might still 1 mana?
I believe it is.
Because if it is, I think we could see what was the name of that aggro paladin deck?
Breakfast Paladin?
Old school, just like not Rush Paladin, but basically just running all it's essentially Face Paladin is what it is.
Like Zoo Paladin, basically.
Yeah, you run some buff mechanic. I feel like this card might make that possible. it's not fantastic or like a game changer all on its own, but the fact that it has so much potential right out the gates means that your opponent has to answer it or is taking a lot of damage really quickly.
Well, okay, so here's a scenario for you. This is not an implausible scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
Turn 2 Scarabag, turn 3 Brazen Zealot, Blessing of Might, run it into something.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean that's reasonable. I mean, I could see like Breakfast Paladin, which ran the eggs,
Mm-hmm.
which is why it's Breakfast Paladin, because you only have eggs at breakfast.
Obviously.
I mean that could come back, right? And then this would be part of it. I feel like there's a way to get this time. I mean, certainly in Wild, an Odd Paladin, like Good Night, like just turn 3 Brazen Zealot hero power, get a 4/1 and 2/1/1s. Like that seems okay.
Just good, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's probably at least a 3, if not a 4. It's probably a 4.
I want to go 4.
I think there's going to be a way. There's going to be a way to exploit this. I think this is a stronger card than it looks like.
Yeah.
Because it says summon and not play. I think that's the key.
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And in Arena, it's probably a 3. Like it's
I mean, sometimes it's a 1 mana 2/1 with relevant text that you'll be able to trigger.
Oh, and by the way, Christology, huh?
Oh yeah, that's a thing, right?
Oh wait, no, that's one attack minions, not one.
Yeah, but you still get like Glotrons and Skaterbots and
yeah. The fact that you can get stuff
like
to add on to this is still relevant, I think. So yeah, 3 there.
Yep. And next we have Sathet's Pride, which
Salad's Pride.
It sounds like a salad dressing.
Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like.
Is it salad? Oh, it's not. That's not a T. Oh, yeah. We've reached the point of the card review where my vision starts to blur.
Yep.
So
that's a sign that we're winding down.
It's only 10:30. We're doing okay. Anyway, Salad's Pride is 3 mana 3/1 Death Rattle. Draw 2 1-health minions from your deck. So, 1-health minions there are a lot of decent ones, and again, like with Christology, 1 health does not mean one cost, and it's either you're getting a lot of aggro minions that are things like Wolf Rider or like Scarlet Crusader, or you're getting a lot of stuff that draws you cards, because a lot of the draw card death rattles like Loot Hoarder and Thalnos are also 1 health.
Mm-hmm.
So also Twilight Drake is a 1 health minion, just saying. So if you're playing a Dragon Paladin, this could be relevant as well, just to get those out of your deck.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a pretty strong card. It's just a matter of like how you make best use of it. But I think that somebody will. I'm not sure what the best way is to use it, but there are enough potential ways to use it that I think at least one of them will stick.
Yeah, and the fact that it just trades up, like, that's good.
Yeah.
The fact that it refills itself with itself is potentially very, very strong.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look great just at face value, but as you start thinking about it, there's a lot of implications. I hadn't even thought about Twilight Drake. That's kind of insane potentially. So yeah, I think it's no lower than a 4 for sure, and it'll enable some really interesting builds for Paladin going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of Dead Ringer and Priest, right? Where it doesn't see play everywhere, but when it sees play, it's really annoying.
Yeah. And in Arena,
it's probably a 2. Maybe. I mean, I guess depends on. It's going to be draft dependent. It could get better, depending on how how your draft ends up being. Like if you end up drafting enough 1 health minions,
if you have
and
2 minions in your deck with 1 health,
yeah,
I think that it's good, because it's potentially an Arcane Intellect with a 3/1 body.
Yeah, so it's probably a 3, I guess.
I think
it's
a 3
not
is fair.
Yeah, you're not going to go out of your way to draft it, but I think if your draft supports it, it might be better on average than some cards.
Yeah. Okay, next card here is Pharaoh's Blessing, 6 mana spell. Give a minion +4/+4, Divine Shield, and Taunt. This is practically the Ziliax of spells, because you are buffing your dudes up a lot. So Blessing of Kings is 4 mana, so the question becomes like, is it worth 2 mana for the Divine Shield and Taunt? And I this is another one I've vacillated on. Like it could be helpful, it could not. The Divine Shield is probably the most relevant thing, because that means that something can immediately trade into something and still be around, which is not insignificant. I mean, I think about Spikeridge Steed, which was insanity. Yeah. This is not quite Spikeridge Steed, but
this is definitely not Spikeridge Steed. No.
But there's enough here where you kind of are getting a 2 for with it. and you're getting a lot more attack than you should have. So I think there's potential here. I'm just not like excited to build a deck with this in it quite yet.
Yeah, the only way I can see you putting this in a constructed deck is if you're building something around Spirit of the Tiger, and then because generally, like even Paladin, when you would play Spirit of the Tiger, you would play that out, and then you would Blessing of Kings it, or you would Spike Rich Steed at the next turn, and then you'd have the spirit that could attack right away, and then you'd also have a 4-drop, a 4/4, or a 6/6 alongside it. So I mean, I could see it there, but that's not a deck that we've seen enough support for. And this is not getting you there. So, but again, in a Highlander deck, maybe you just run one of these, right?
Yeah.
So it's fairly costed. It's fine. It's not. I mean, it's more expensive than Blessing of Kings, but it's not a worse deal than Blessing of Kings. But it's just like everything about this card just says this is fine, which means it's a 3.
It's a 3. I think it's the classic example of a card you're excited to get off of a random effect. And you're probably not building your deck around. Now, in Arena, being able to buff up a minion and do a twofer is not an insignificant deal. Yeah. So I kind of want to go 4, especially since your hero power just guarantees you're going to have something, essentially.
Yeah, I could see a 4 in Arena.
Cool.
Okay, and then we have Sandwasp Queen, which is a 2-mana 3/1. Battlecry, add 2/2/1 Sandwasps to your hand. So if you're going down the Brazen Zealot route, you want to spam a lot of minions onto the board, here you go. You have Glowstone Technician is a card. There are other hand buff cards. I'm not getting on the hand buff train outside of Mech Paladin, because like Mech Paladin is ridiculous because you get to put all those things together into Voltron. Not literal Voltron, because we're not playing Mimiron's Head in Standard, but like metaphorical Voltron. These are not mechs, and I'm not super excited about this.
Yeah, Beast Paladin is not a thing, and I don't think this makes it a thing. Even in a token Paladin or something like that, I just don't. I don't quite see it. So I mean, I guess a 2 is fine, because like the fact that you're getting stuff to play, maybe in like a swarm deck or something. Of course, you want the wasps if you're swarming, but that's just about like it, essentially. In Arena, just knowing that you've got more minions, it's a little bit better. It's not. I'm not upset to choose it just because it guarantees a little bit of like very soft card draw, essentially, where you've got more minions off of just the one. It's a all-in-one package, essentially. So I'd say like a 2 in Standard, 3 in Arena, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's a 3. I want to go higher than that because it does die to a hero power.
Yeah, it does.
But it's not. If it was a 2-mana 3/2, like this would be a 4 easily. But the fact that it dies to a hero power keeps it at a 3.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, is it? Oh, you're next.
This one's me. Okay. Yeah. Ancestral Guardian is a 4-mana 4/2 with Lifesteal and Reborn. I don't think you ever run this. And if you get it off of like Evolve or random Reborn effects, then it's fine. If your opponent has to run stuff into it, that's a lot of life that you're going to gain. So I guess that's the highest of the highs there. And especially if you have Crystal Smith Kangor or something, like getting it, I mean, that's like light rag, essentially, But I don't know. I just feel like if they take care of this and it's just at 1 mana, it doesn't, like, they're just going to ping it off or, something like that. I just don't see why you run this in a deck, I guess. And I feel like I'm going to eat those words because the lifesteal part of this has me coming back to, but it's life. It's like Ziliax almost, as far as like.
Walking Fountain's the better
Sure, yeah.
Right? Because Walking Fountain is going to hit 2 things and heal you for 8. And this is maybe going to do that very slowly. I mean, the difference with Walking Fountain is it has Rush, and this doesn't have Rush.
Right. Rush is the big thing with life. That's Ziliax, too.
And I mean, if Reborn is really that big of a deal, we're going to start seeing a lot of silence in the meta anyway. But,
which, have we flat out said what Reborn does?
We probably not.
Oh, big mistake when we jump all the way in. Okay, so I'm sure many of you know, so we won't take too much time. But Reborn means that the first time this minion dies, it will come back and only have 1 health. It will not reborn again unless you were running shenanigans or something. But on its own, so this is like a 4-mana 4/2 with lifesteal. When it dies, it comes back as a 4/1 with lifesteal, and then it's done. So the upside with Reborn that I've thought through is that it does take quite a few resources for your opponent to deal with it. So like as far as sticky minions are concerned, like all of them are that. And the fact that this is 4 attack, the fact that it has lifesteal, like your opponent really can't let this live for very long. So that has me thinking okay, but I probably don't want to go higher than a 2 on this. Maybe there are some implications for it, but I just think it doesn't do anything immediately, and you really need it to in order to be proactive. So maybe giving it taunt somehow, but I don't know.
You're playing this for the quest, right? Like that's the reason you're putting it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, again, is the quest good enough? I don't know, but that's the reason you're putting it in.
I mean, if you use the hero power on this, then you've got a 2/2 with lifesteal and reborn in addition to this, and your opponent has to have some AOE to deal with all of that. So that tends to that could get scarier, and maybe that, I don't know. I think I'm thinking too hard though on all of that. In Arena, it's a little bit better. It's probably a 3, honestly, because
I think it's a 4 in Arena.
You
honestly,
think so?
Like 2 4-attack minions.
Yeah,
for 4 mana, like I mean that's not nothing, right? Like there's going to be a lot of reborn, granted, but like 2 4-attack minions with lifesteal is nothing to sneeze at.
I'll go with you on that, especially since probably around that time you're lower on health, so you're going to get some good. I mean, if you get the 8 health off of this, I feel like it was well worth it, no matter what minions they traded in. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go up to a 4 with you on Arena.
Yeah. Okay, and then finally we go to Subdue, which is a 2-mana spell. Set a minion's attack and health to 1. This is pretty simple. This is as close to hard removal as Paladin is ever going to get. And, being able to... It doesn't deal with death rattles, but other than that, it deals with a minion. So I think you'll probably end up running this. It's a 4, I would say, in both the Constructed and Arena.
Yeah, equality definitely died for this. But this is a worthy successor. Is that the right word? Yeah.
Sure.
It's a good card. I think 4 is right on the money, and this is going to see a lot of play. Dark Conviction is the one to think about with this, that we had as a 2-mana set of minions attack and health to 3. The nice thing about that was that you could be proactive or reactive, depending. This is purely reactive, but there's enough big stuff that you have to get rid of that I think it's just good. So yeah, 4s across the board, honestly, on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, if Breakfast Paladin becomes a thing, right, then we're making fetch happen. I'm sorry. But if Breakfast Paladin has become a thing, you're going to have eggs that have 0 attack. This lets them attack and die, which is what you want, right? Yeah. So that there are some potential offensive applications for this card too.
Yeah. Perfectly fine. Well, we made it through all of the league's cards, and we are well on our way to the end of this, Steve. So we've just got some neutral cards. We'll start with legendary here.
Do we have any?
We have 2 here.
Oh, not in the rundown.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't show there.
Okay. All right.
But the first one here is
we'll go with what's on the screen. So
there you go. Yeah, Colossus of the Moon is a 10-mana 10/10 with Divine Shield and Reborn. That's a big boy. You get this off Sea Giant with Conjurer's Calling. It's insane. There's potentially some shenanigans, I guess, with like Muck Morpher, or if you can recruit this. I mean, you put this in a big Paladin, and that's fantastic because with Duel, it just kills whatever it goes up against. So I think there's some places for it. It just, typically minions that don't do something immediately are not just aren't what you want. So, but yeah. I think there are some proactive, silly ways to actually make it somewhat viable.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time and place for minions that don't do anything when they hit the board, and it's called Big Shaman.
Right.
And I mean, if you are able to Eureka this out and then put an Ancestral Spirit on that, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so
gosh.
I could see in the context of that deck specifically how this could see play. Outside of that, I don't think so. So I think it's probably a 3.
Yeah, I think like in the decks that really want it, it's probably a 4 or a 5. But
yeah, maybe it is a 4 in that, but it's a very narrow use case. It's not going to be something you're just going to throw in a deck.
No.
It's going to be a very narrow use case where you're going. I don't even think it goes in Conjurer Mage, to be honest with you,
Oh,
or
no, no,
Freeze
no.
Mage.
Yeah, no.
Like
You're going
this
to
is
get
really
it off
like
of the effect.
this is like Big Shaman where you can, or maybe in Priest where you're going to be resurrecting things, right? Like maybe
Oh, yeah,
then,
if you
but even
resurrect
then,
this,
Priest
that's
has,
fine, yeah.
like this is probably too slow for the Priest decks that we're going to be looking at, which is
Sure.
an amazing and terrifying thing for me to say.
But yeah, I think 4 is probably more fair that to its strength. And in Arena,
No,
no.
you're not. I mean, okay, yes, it dies and it comes back and it trades like fine, but like I'm thinking back to like remember that in Old Gods there was that 10 mana like faceless something
Behemoth,
or other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people drafted that, and that was like the biggest trap card in the history of Earth.
Yeah.
Because you would play a 10 mana 10/10, and your opponent would just beat your face in and ignore it.
Yeah.
And this is going to be the same thing because this doesn't have taunt. So I would say it's probably a 2 in Arena. Like you will take it sometime, and again against the other legendaries you're offered, it may be the best option, but I don't think you're going to be super excited about it. You may be excited about it in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be excited about it when you're trying to play it in the game.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fine.
And then the other one that we have is King Phaoris. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm not going to try to fix it now.
Ferris? King Ferris?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. 10 mana 5/5. Battle Cry. For each spell in your hand, summon a random minion of the same cost. Why? I don't... You're playing big spell something, and you're expecting to play this and then get value out of it, and then like this feels like glacially slow. And this is an expansion in the desert. We don't have glaciers here.
That's very, very true.
So I don't see this happening. Like I don't see a scenario. You're going to tell me what it is because your rating is very far apart than mine. So you're going to tell me what this scenario is. But the way I'm looking at this is a nerf to. This is a way to balance out the 10 mana 10/10 taunt that we're getting for purposes of Conjurer Mage.
Yes, which is a good thing. Well, you can tell by now. I learned a lot from watching Ali Straza for like 15 minutes or whatever it was. And she was running this in that deck. That deck was like a dragon big spell mage, and she ran 2 copies of Fire Tree Witch Doctor in that as well. And so she ended up getting 3 or 4 minions off of this, and this being a 10 mana just spawn 4 big things on the board is pretty good. Like the opponent had to use something like a Twisting Nether or Plague of Death or something like that to just wipe the board. And then she kept on going because she had the initiative after doing that. So I think that this effect is very powerful, and it's a matter of if the deck is powerful on its own, because it can't just be powerful because of this one legendary minion that you run. But I think that this is a very good payoff for that deck to be built. So there's quite a bit of potential, I guess, is what I'll say with it.
I mean, I guess my question then is, how is this not win more, right? Because you have a bunch of expensive spells in your hand that you have not needed to play, which means you're ahead, you're vastly ahead, or they're too expensive and too slow and you're looking for this to save you, which is probably not going to, which means that you're so behind that this is like a last-ditch effort. Yeah. And either one of those scenarios does not sound worth putting a 10-drop in your deck for.
Yeah, I think it's that this just allows you to do something proactive, especially in that mage build. A lot of those spells are reactive. I guess you have Power of Creation or something, but everything else is more dealing with your opponent's board. This allows you to have something else in your deck that says you have to do something now because I just brought a lot of strength here. So I'm willing to meet you maybe at a 3 if we can go somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to go up to a 3. You're even bringing a Power of Creation, which is like the argument against this. That's
very true.
Like, let's say that you have 2 spells and they're around 6 mana, because that's probably what it is, right? Like, then that's Power of Creation, and Power of Creation fell out of lists really quickly because very often two minions of that cost are not good enough. Like, you need 9 or 10 or at least 8 drops in order to really get value out of this. And like, how many of those spells are you going to have in your hand?
And it's the Fire Tree Witch Doctors that really sold me, because that allowed you to get something that's helpful, but that you didn't have to put in your deck, and give you some early game also. So if that card's not in the deck, I don't know that it exists. So I would say a 3, and then maybe, I mean, it's probably a 1 in Arena. I don't think
It's 100% a 1 in Arena. Yeah, like a 10 mana 5/5 that may just do nothing. Yeah, that's a 1. That's a Padlin. Yeah.
Easy. Okay, Desert Obelisk is a 5 mana 0/5. If you control 3 of these at the end of your turn, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. We do not have tools to make this happen, and this just screams that it may be somewhat relevant sometime in the future, but it's nothing. It's a big old nothing burger right now to me.
Yeah, people are going to try this. There will be a Trollding clip. I mean,
the payoff is just so small. 5 damage to a random enemy for creating.
Well, it's 15 damage really when it happens,
right?
Because each one of those.
Thank you. Okay, that makes way more sense to me. Good lord. Yeah, it's just not happening right now. I mean, we've heard that we'll get some tools, but it looks like it wasn't this expansion. So maybe keep an eye, and maybe Inner Fire Priest can do something with this down the line, but certainly not now.
Yeah, no, it's like, this is like Blood of the Ancient One all over again. Like, you're gonna try, and a lot of people are gonna try, and they're gonna fail, and it'll probably happen like it did. Like I got Blood of the Ancient One to work in Arena once.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, that'll happen. But
yeah.
Like,
I'll argue a 1 on it, just because I think that maybe down the road there's something that can come of it, but right now it's not even worth.
It's not a 0, but it's
in Arena it is.
Oh, in Arena it's 100. It's like a -1.
There's just no reason to play it at all.
All right, so Blatant Decoy is a.
Oh, actually, we've got another card. This one actually didn't make it in here too.
Did my spreadsheet just like die on us?
A few of them did for some reason, but Mogu Cultist is the next
one. Mogu Cultist. I'll just go off the stream then. Yeah. So Mogu Cultist is a 1 mana 1/1 battle cry. If your board is full of Mogu Cultists, sacrifice them all and summon Highkeeper Ra. Good luck. We have too many cards to talk about.
And like, this is Highkeeper Ra, 10 mana, 20/20. At the end of your turn, deal 20 damage to all enemies. So
yeah, sure.
That is the most proactive payoff we've had for a meme card yet. But goodness, yeah, good luck filling your board with all of these.
Like, there's probably a way to do it. I'm not spending brain cycles trying to figure it out.
Noswhisker is the best example we have, but even there, it's like that's not the combo deck you want to be playing.
And you have to draw them all, and you have to clear out your board first, because you need to have all 7 slots free, which means you need to play Noswhisker, shuffle them all in, draw them, and then kill off Noswhisker before, or I guess Shadow Step it before you can before you get this to happen. So yeah. Have fun. Have fun storming the castle.
Yeah,
but no.
If you want to meme it up, go for it. That'll be a lot of fun. But it's we can't judge these based off memes. So I think again it's a 1 just because of the potential for the future, maybe. But it's a 0 in Arena again because
it's a 1 mana 1/1 in Arena. Like you're not drafting that.
Okay, so the next one now is Blatant. Mortuary Machine. Man, there were a few that.
What is up with my? You got to get the guy who coded the spreadsheet and take him outside the woodshed.
Yeah,
or
something like that. So Mortuary Machine is a 5 mana 8/8 mech. After your opponent plays a minion, give it Reborn. We probably don't have enough brain cells to actually debate this like we could, according to our thoughts that were in here earlier. But I think you can't ever overlook a 5 mana 8/8 because we've had them before and the downsides have been livable. And I think that when your opponent isn't building their deck around Reborn, you're really not in that. As long as they're not playing taunts, essentially, this 8/8 is just going to ram your opponent's face the next turn, and hopefully you can kill them fast enough. So this is somewhere in between the 5/8/8s we've had before. I think it's like erring on the good side, though, honestly.
If any of your opponent's minions have taunt, then just forget it, right? Like that's the risk. Like you play this, your opponent responds with Ziliax. Like,
yeah,
I mean, yes, that's the worst case scenario, but like taunt minions are not uncommon, right? And like you really need to be. you need to have a very clear game plan of how you want to use this. Like Silence Priest doesn't even feel good enough, right? Like, I don't know. It seems like, yes, we've had a lot of these 5-mana 8/8s. Like, maybe it's another Bittertide Hydra, but I don't like as soon as your opponent's playing any taunts, then it's game over. Like, you're never getting through again.
Well, and the fact that you can magnetize something onto this also isn't irrelevant. I mean, the thing is, do you have tools in the deck that can deal with whatever your opponent does? Like, if you have removal, if you have silence effects, then you can. I think you run double Spellbreaker just to make sure if your opponent does something like Ziliax, you don't have to deal with that. But yeah, I mean, I like this. I want to fight for a 3 at least, and I think it's a 3 with potential.
Sure. I mean, I guess in Wild you can play Treachery Warlock, and you can give it to your opponent, and then make a bunch of Reborn minions. You can make a Reborn Void Lord in Wild with this. So,
boy, yeah, you don't want to do that. In Arena, I would say it's probably the same because your opponent isn't likely to have all the minions that are really that scary anyway.
I mean, I remember way back in the day, and I mean, it's probably back again now. Like, you used to have a decision of whether your deck was a Fel Reaver deck or not, right?
Sure,
like, is your deck the kind of deck where you can play an 8/8 and say, deal with it or I win, and you don't care if they burn the rest of your deck? So, Reborn is a little bit scarier because it's not, is my deck a Fel Reaver deck? Is my opponent's deck a taunt deck? Because in Arena, you're much less likely to be able to get through a taunt with Reborn, right? Yeah. So, and it's going to depend on what class you are. Like, if you are a ping class, then maybe you're a little bit more likely to take the risk, right? Because at least you can get through the second half.
Yeah, 3 just seems.
It's
about
probably
right.
a 3. It's probably a 3.
Too.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so I'm just gonna rely on the stream now, which means I'm a minute behind because I don't know what's going on with the spreadsheet anymore.
That's okay. So. We've got
so Mischief Maker is a 3-mana 3/3 battle cry. Swap the top card of your deck with your opponent's. Where was this a year ago when I was complaining about Kingsbane Rogue?
Yeah, that's
like, that's the use case, and I don't know that we really have a use case for that, because like the use case I could think of is like Holy Wrath Paladin, but then you're dead on the same turn. So this usually isn't going to help. Like, you would have to know what the top card of your deck is, which means that your opponent shuffled something in right after they've emptied out, like in Myra's, right? But if they're Myrazing and shuffling something in, it's probably like 17 copies of it. So just taking one really isn't going to matter that much.
Yeah,
I don't know where you use this, but I guess if there's any sort of a deck that wants to shuffle stuff into an empty deck, then that's the use case.
Yeah, I want to like it. I want to see it as some good counterplay, but until we have some way to see the top deck of our opponent's, or the top card of our opponent's deck, it's just kind of a guessing game. I do love the art on this because they're swapping out the Indiana Jones golden monkey with a chicken.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Major points on that. But in the meantime, it's probably a 2 in standard, like a 3 in Arena.
Yeah, it's a 3-mana 3/3. Yeah. Man, that looks like an angry chicken, though.
Yeah, it probably is. Next one here is Questing Explorer, 2-mana 2/3 Battlecry. If you control a quest, draw a card. People were high on this when it was first revealed because this is one of the first cards that we saw of the set. I've just still been pretty meh on this. Like, it's nice on turn 2 if you play it right after your quest. The best place for this, honestly, is the Shaman because they are already taking advantage of the battle cries. But if you draw this later in the game after your quest is done, it's just a 2-mana 2/3. And if that didn't help you in some other way, then I'm just not high on this.
I guess what they're saying is they're offset. This is offsetting the fact that you're missing a card in the mulligan, but it's not, because I mean, you're getting a 2-mana 2/3, and that's giving you another card. Like, okay, but that's a 2-mana 2/3. Like, that's not really helping you. Like, it's fine. Maybe you play it, but I mean, and really, like, you have to get this in your opening hand or your first few turns, because a lot of these quests are designed to go off like turn 6 or 7, and then you have a 2-mana 2/3, right?
Yeah.
So like, you could draw, like, if it's like the Hunter quest, okay, right? Like the Hunter quest that's going to go off later, then, or maybe the Warlock quest, then, where you just need to draw cards, like, okay. but most of the time this is going to be a vanilla 2-mana 2/3, and like no, so it's probably a 2 constructed, 3 in arena because 2-mana 2/3 still has value.
The quests aren't ever going to be there, so it is a 2.
No, but it's still. But it's, I mean, you draft a River Croc sometimes, right? And it's fine.
Yeah.
That's a 3 in arena.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
Yeah. It's a River Croc with a better hat.
Oh, that's very true. As far as fashion's concerned, Questing Explorer's got that.
Yeah. So next is Neferset Ritualist, which is a 2-mana 2/3 battle cry, restore adjacent minions to full health. So obviously the use case for this is like reborn minions or like anything in priest. I don't know if this is good enough to see play in constructed, but I think it'll be experimented with, and I don't think that it's not good enough to see play. I think I could see uses for this in something like Priest, where you're trying to restore a lot of health for the quest, and you have a lot of reborn minions that are coming back at 1 health. Yeah. Like I could definitely see this potentially being used, and then again, if you're buffing things up, that's that. Okay, well now I'll have a 4-mana 5/6. That's okay.
The reborn thing is interesting, and in Priest especially, this almost feels like a circle of healing on a stick that's only proactive to the things you want it to be. So, like with Northshire Cleric, it's crazy. So I think there's some potential. It's just we've seen this effect and it hasn't been great. This is just an upgraded version. That it's a question of like, will it be good enough? And I think it'll be okay. It'll be on the better side for sure. I want to give it a 3. I think in constructed.
I feel like it's a 4. I'm not sold on it being 4, but I got this feeling in my gut that says this is a 4.
Yeah. Okay. We can go up to a 4.
Because the thing is that yes, we've had Hose and Healer before, but we also didn't have Lucent Bark, and we didn't have the Priest quest.
Yeah, and
so we didn't have it. We didn't have an incentive to heal a certain amount.
Those make it even better. So yeah. I think I can see that and go up to a 4. And in arena, I mean, the chance to be able to heal, if you're healing one thing, that's good. Healing 2 things is potentially insane, honestly. So I think we just looked at a 2-mana 2/3 that does nothing. This is the complete opposite. So I think it's a 5, honestly.
Yes, I mean I will docket some points internally for not having a good hat, but. Other than that, yes, I think this is a 5 in arena.
Ritualists never have hats anyway.
Ritualist, not only does it not have a good hat, but he needs to put on a shirt.
That's, I don't know. Maybe the healing powers are coming from the lack of shirt.
I don't know. I'm not buying that.
Next one here is Infested Goblin, a 3-mana 2/3 with Taunt. Death Rattle, add 2 1/1 Scarabs with Taunt to your hand. So this kind of feels like the Little Exorcist that we had a very long time ago that ended up being a 3-mana 2/3 with Taunt most of the time. Its effect was very different than this, obviously. Yeah. The question is, like, what's the value of the 1/1 Scarabs with Taunt? Unless you can buff them up somehow, they're just going to annoy your opponent. They're not really going to get in the way. So I'm not really sure that this fits. Like, we'll talk about Taunt Warrior in the next episode. Like, maybe you'll pick this off Discover every now and then. I don't think you ever put it in your deck, though.
Do you ever want Taunts in Token Druid? I'm not. This is not one of my. This is not one of my normal you're wrong and I'm going to ask you a question
no.
To make you think about it. I'm legitimately asking because I don't know the answer.
I wonder if you put this in a specialist lineup for Token Druid, specifically for the mirror, honestly. Because buffing things up is fine, and yeah, I do think that there is some value of putting this down and having some extra stuff afterwards. The fact, I assume the 1/1 tokens cost you 1 also. Being able to combo that with buffing is pretty relevant in like a Token Druid, so I don't think that's too crazy of a question to ask. Especially in an aggro heavy meta, maybe that actually makes the deck a little bit stronger, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean you play Acorn Bearer, and this is Acorn Bearer with Taunt. I mean it's 3 mana instead of 1, but it's not nothing. I mean you also do have things like the Hunter Quest that want you to play more minions. You have a number of cards in Warrior that buff taunts. Like I don't know if this is good enough to go in any of those, which is why I'm leaning towards a 3. But I feel like it has some potential uses, and it's got enough it fits in enough like little weird niches that it'll probably find a place in one of them.
Yeah, I think the 3's right. In Arena, it's probably about the same. It's maybe a little bit better.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're really excited to get this. You'll take it if it's up against some other stuff just because of the value. But I think it's probably a 3 there too, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's effectively it's 4 or 5 of stats for 5. Like we've already talked about a couple of cards that are 4 or 5 for 5 that we're not super excited about, but they're not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So that this probably is the same thing.
Cool.
Yep. And so now we're moving on to the commons.
Yes. The home stretch here.
Yep. We'll usually the commons go a little bit faster.
They do, yeah.
Jar Dealer is a 1-mana 1/1 death rattle and a random 1-cost minion to your hand. So, I mean, you know, if you really like jars, this is for you.
Or if you like carpets.
Yeah.
This in Carpet Zoo seems pretty nice.
So this is like for a magic Jarpet deck?
Oh, I like it. I like it. You got your carpets, you got your... I would call that Bizarre Zoo because, you know, they're selling a bunch of stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's the thing.
Again, like, you know, we just talked about the Hunter Quest. Token Druid is a thing.
Uh-huh.
Again, I think I don't know if this is good enough to go in any of those, especially like the fact that it's a death rattle and not a battle cry it slows it down a lot.
Sure.
You know, I mean, it's it's not nothing.
I think 3's fair. I think, like, until I thought of the Magic Carpet, it was like, what is the point of this? But once I thought about that, I can't get it out of my mind that it's like, you want 1-cost minions in that deck, and this just refreshes that, and you really don't care what it is. So I think 3's fair, and in Arena, it's like a 2 or 3. I mean, it gets you another card. Is it going to help? Maybe. It's probably a 3. It's probably one of the better 1-mana cards that you could get, honestly.
It's 2 1-mana cards in one. That's probably fine.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, you generally don't want to go out of your way to draft 1-drops, but you know, this is okay.
Sure. All right, next one here is Murmy. The Murmy, 1-mana 1/1 Murloc with Reborn. It is nothing to write home about. It's fine. I mean, this is like Mecharoo or Argent Squire or Possessed Villager. It's just the same, only it's with Murlocs. The problem with Murlocs is I really want proactive things to be happening. So this is not that. Like, I'm okay, I guess, with playing this on 1, but I'd rather have a Murloc Tidecaller. So I don't think this is going to make the Murloc lists. I think that you're really only going to see this off of Reborn or random effects. I think it's probably a 1, honestly.
I mean, you play Mecharoo in non-mech decks, right?
Sure.
And, like... maybe not now because mechs are probably more valuable than Murlocs right now, but Mecharoo is going to rotate. And so a minion with that effect sees play in a lot of these types of decks. And it's not exciting. It's not something you're going out of your way to look for, but it's, you know, I think that effect will see play at some point. I think that's a 3.
Yeah. Okay.
That's, you know, and Arena is probably the same thing. It's 2 1/1s. For 1, which is not great, but it's fine.
I would go 2. Like,
okay, I can see it.
I'm only going to choose this if it's up against other 1-cost minions that aren't great, you know?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd probably rather get something at a different number or a different cost.
Yeah. I mean, I think more likely where you'll see this until Mecharoo rotates is coming out of Underbelly Angler.
Yeah,
that's where you're going to see it a lot.
And that's probably good that Angler gets a little hit. Let's talk about a Murloc I'm way more excited about, though. Why don't you tell us about this?
So Fish Flinger is fun to say.
It's true.
And that art is pretty good too.
Yes.
Is a 2-mana 3/2 battle cry. Add a random Murloc to each player's hand. So first of all, this is just fine, right? It's 2-mana 3/2. Those are good stats. Those are Bloodfen Raptor stats. We know that is just the definition of pressure.
Sure.
And meanwhile, you're getting another Murloc, and yes, you're giving your opponent a Murloc as well. But Murlocs are on their own are not high value. Like Murlocs are high value when you have a deck built around them. Mm-hmm. When you're just getting like a random Murloc Tidecaller or a random like Cold Light Seer, right? Like who cares, right? It's not that big of a deal. And in some types of decks, or some types of like, well, specialist isn't a thing anymore, so we don't need to talk about like specialist sideboards, but like in a world where specialist sideboards would be a thing, or you're teching against a very specific type of deck, like a Mechathune deck, for example. Like if you just throw a Murloc into your opponent's hand right before they're about to go off with Mechathune, like that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's wasting at least one turn where they have to play it and then kill it before you actually can go off with the Mechathune, and that could cost them a couple of turns.
But for you, on the other hand, for you on the other hand, who are playing a Murloc deck, it's going to help your strategy pretty much no matter what you get. So I think this is very strong. This may not be the 2-mana 2/3 that Rockpool Hunter, but I think this is the new 2-mana. You just put this in a Murloc deck, honestly, because it's and the 3/2 stat line is much more proactive, like you said. So I honestly think it's a 5.
I don't know if I'm willing to go up to a 5 yet.
What else are you asking from it? Like,
you're probably you're right.
You're
right.
It's one of those cards like Town Crier that it's like it doesn't feel
project.
Yeah, it doesn't feel very good. But what more could you ask from this? I think it's easily a 5 there.
Yeah,
and then
in Arena it's probably a 4.
Yeah, 4's fine there.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a little bit more painful to give your opponent a random Murloc, but still not the worst thing in the world. So
cool. Next one here is Anubis F Warbringer, 9-mana, 9/6 minion. Death Rattle. Give all minions in your hand +3/+3. This is potentially good in Arena. The effect is potentially strong, and I think there's way too much thinking of like maybe the potential, and it's not actually good at the end of the day.
Yeah, this is
so
like
slow.
Like when the next time that I start talking about card review terminology and I talk about win more, like this is the card that I'm going to use for that example. This is like the dictionary example of win more, because if you're playing this card and you get the effect to go off, like one of two things is happening. Either you've got a whole bunch of minions in your hand that probably were going to win you the game regardless of what the stats were on them.
Mm-hmm.
If you were able to get to turn 9 and play a 9/6 and not die, and then have them all get buffed, you probably didn't need them to get buffed, or your hand is empty and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So in Constructed, this is going to come off of random. You'll see this when your Conjurer is calling an Alexstrasza.
Yeah.
That's when you'll see this.
And
occasionally it'll be relevant then. But in Arena, an Arena...
It's a 3 in Arena, probably.
It's still probably a 3 because, again, it's not that much different than a 10-mana 10/10 without taunt, but it does have a Death Rattle that's relevant.
And if you have cards in your hand and you play this on turn 9, that's potentially a lot of tempo going your way. So and in Standard, you think it's a 1 or a 2?
I think it's a 1.
It's probably a 1.
I don't think you ever put this in a deck. You're going to get this off of Conjurer's Calling. That's it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. And then I'm trying to figure out where we go to. So
this one's yours, Wasteland Assassin.
Yeah, no, we still got miles to go before we sleep. Okay, Wasteland Assassin. Literally, in my case, Wasteland Assassin is a 5-mana 4/2 Stealth Reborn. The only use case I see for this is like Conjurer Mage now sometimes plays Halftime Scavenger.
They do. I've run into quite a few lately, honestly.
Yeah, and the reason mainly is because you can play this and then guaranteed have a target for Conjurer's Calling the next turn, and it also will heal you. Now, this will not heal you, but this also could remove a minion more likely than the Halftime Scavenger. I think you probably still want the Halftime Scavenger. I mean, in a Paladin deck that really wants Reborn, maybe you play this, but I feel like we've seen better Reborn cards already.
Yeah, the fact that this has stealth and that the token it generates has stealth, that's the best part of this card. I'm struggling. Is
that worth 5 mana?
Yeah, that's the problem. Jungle Panther at 3 is pretty good, and this at 5 it's probably fair. If it were a 4, I'd think it was a little. Not even too good. I don't know. These Reborn cards are really hard to evaluate beforehand.
They are.
Because I think
I feel like we're getting these all wrong, like we were with the lackeys. So.
It's possible. I hope not, but I probably want to go just down the road with a 3 on this.
Yeah,
There's some potential there, but
so.
I don't think it's going to be one that really moves things along. And then in arena,
this might be a little bit better in arena
it's
because
a 4
it's basically going to be removal.
Yeah, you're getting that removal off of 2 cards. I think that's fair. Next one here is Vile Fiend, a 2-mana 2/2 demon with lifesteal. I was really high on this card at first, but then you reminded me of cards like Pumpkin Peasant and what are the other lifesteal?
And Swamp Leech and Dreadscale Knight.
Yeah. Unless they have Rush, lifesteal minions tend to not do much. I think there's more potential if a Demon Zoo or Demon deck comes out of this expansion, which I think there's probably more hope for than ever before. Yeah. But this isn't necessarily going to be a core part of that strategy. So I think it's just fine. It's probably exactly what its stat line is, honestly, at a 2.
Choose across the board. Yeah, I think so too. I don't think. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward.
Cool.
All right, and Bone Wraith, is that what we have next?
Yes, Bone Wraith. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Bone Wraith is a 4-mana 2/5 taunt reborn. Taunt is good. 4-mana 2/5 taunt is good. A 4-mana 2/5 taunt that comes back from after it dies is good. I think that anywhere that you're going to want reborn, this is going to be one of the reborn minions you're going to want.
It's pretty good. I have a tough time comparing whether it's better or worse than Sludge Belcher. I feel like I've been on both sides of that. What do you think?
Yeah. It's a little worse just because the attack is a little bit worse, but I think it's a fair comparison. I mean, you're getting a 2/1 instead of a 1/2 back, which is relevant because you can ping off a 1 health minion. But I mean, like, again, in a priest deck, right, where you're going to want to be reviving things and you're going to be doing things like unclaimed, I don't know, the 3/3 that kills something and brings it back to life at full health. Mm-hmm. You know, that's relevant too, right? Like, if you're hitting a reborn minion with that, that's just value. So I think that where there are uses for this, also in, like, you know, the taunt decks, if there are such a thing for warrior.
Right. I think you get this off of random effects and you're really happy, or like you're discovering stuff and you choose this probably sometimes. I think it could go in some decks as a defensive option. Yeah. I think it's fine, and it's probably, I don't know if it's a 3 or a 4 though.
I think it's a 3 because we're using the word fine. I think that's been our barometer this whole episode.
I'm glad you keep me sober with that. In arena, it's a little bit better. I'd say it's a 4.
I think it's a 4. Yeah.
Cool. All right, next one here is Injured Tol'vir, 2-mana 2/6 with Taunt, Battlecry, deal 3 damage to this minion. This effect is very strong in the right deck. My problem is where it's happening on your curve. Like this being, we saw Injured, not Tol'vir. What was the?
Injured Kvaldir?
Kvaldir, yes. The 1-mana 2/4 that dealt 3 damage to itself. And that never really did anything outside of the Camel Hunter deck. Do you remember that? That would just tutor out the 2/4?
Oh, man.
Anyway, that's a blast from the past. But I think that this is very similar. Like, the taunt is nice. Maybe you can get away with it with some of the healing effects in this set. But I think it's just where this lies on the mana curve that makes it not what you want. On its own, it's fine. It's just probably not going to do that much.
Why is a 2/3 taunt not good enough?
Because it's a 2-mana 2/3 taunt. I guess, do we have anything to relate it to in that?
I don't
respect?
think so. I'm thinking back to like the Pompous Thespian.
Oh yeah,
as like the
3/2
closest thing to that, and like, or actually, you know what the analogy is? It's weird, but what Cornered Sentry. A Cornered Sentry was effectively a 2/3 taunt that just hadn't been damaged yet, because the Raptors were going to. Yeah. Right. And that did see play sometimes. Again, Priest wants to heal things. Right. So a taunt that is going to keep you alive and give you a target for the hero power, or a target for a circle of healing, or divine him, like, it seems like it's going to make its way in. Okay. Especially because you're going to need anti-aggro tools, and this is. The floor is a 2-mana 2/3 taunt, which is good.
Is Divine Hymn still in standard?
It is.
Oh, dear Lord.
It is, and it's spectacular.
Oh, I'm nervous about that. Okay, I'd be willing to go to a 4 then on it if you're feeling it.
I feel like this is my priest sense is tingling on this one. We'll put it that way.
All right, I'll trust.
And even in arena, like, it's a 4-mana 2/3. Yeah. a 2-mana 2/3 taunt. That's fine.
I'll put it as a 3
better than fine
on that.
I think it's a 4.
You think?
Like, we just talked about questing whatever, which is a river croc, and we gave it a 3.
Yeah, but I was feeling a 2 on that, honestly. So my internal measure is a little bit off on that.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a 2/3 taunt for 2 mana. I think that's a 4.
Okay, all right. I'm still not feeling it that much, but I just I don't believe strongly enough to argue on that.
Fair enough.
This next one's you here.
Oh, is it? Okay. Which are we up to? Is that Beaming Sidekick?
Yep.
Okay. So Beaming Sidekick is a 1-mana 1/2 battle cry. Give a friendly minion +2 health. I mean, that was maybe in Zoo. Maybe. Like, didn't we have something that did that in Zoo? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, there was like a 3-mana 3/2 that gave all minions +1 health.
Oh, the Boisterous Bard or something?
And that saw some play in Odd Paladin, so I think you're right. And I keep thinking about Carpet because Carpet Zoo is just probably going to be the most effective. And so getting a 2/2 with Rush is really good. And then possibly protecting something also on top of that. It's decent. I just don't know if it's good enough on its own, because if you just play this out, I guess honestly, if you play Flame Imp on 1 and then you can give it 2 health the next turn, that's really strong. Yeah, you're already feeling that. So maybe I'm going a little bit higher on this than I initially thought. I'm
still thinking 2 though.
No, it's a 3. It's at least a 3.
So?
I was debating a 4.
All right, I acquiesce. I beat you into submission on the other one, so I'll give you this one.
In Arena, I would go down to a 2. The health is okay, but the one attack is just not strong enough. So,
right.
Next one here is a Temple Berserker, 2-mana 1/2 with Reborn, and it has +2 attack while damaged. So I didn't realize it until I saw people playing with this card. That means that the token that you get from the Reborn effect has +2 attack. So it comes back essentially as a 3/2, which is interesting. But the fact that this has
3/1 really, right?
Or a 3/1, thank you, sorry. But the fact that this only has 2 health, you have such a limited window where this thing becomes valuable. I just don't see where it really fits, honestly.
Yeah, it's. I mean, again, maybe if you're doing a Highlander version of the Quest Paladin and you need Reborn cards.
Well, you can pull this off Christology, if nothing else.
Yeah,
but you know,
I mean, it's.
I think it's probably a 1. Honestly.
I feel like we're thinking too much about this one.
1 in Standard, probably 1 in Arena. Also, honestly.
Maybe it's 2 in Arena.
Yeah, you're getting something additional off of it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you're still getting a 3/1 that you can attack with, maybe, or at least you're forcing your opponent to ping it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Serpent Egg is a 2-mana 0/3 with a Death Rattle. Summon a 3/4 Sea Serpent. First of all, the art on this card is fantastic.
Oh yeah, can't wait to get this in gold.
Yeah, this is good. I mean, again, this is pretty close to Nerubian Egg. Like, the attack's 1 less and the health on the egg is 1 more. But I mean, like, this isn't. Oh God, how did I forget the name of the egg from
Devilsaur Egg?
Katharina Hunt already. Devilsaur Egg, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, obviously this isn't Devilsaur Egg, but I mean, a few things are. But getting a 3/4 out of the egg is good, and you have decks like Zoo that want to blow up their own minions, and I'm not giving up on this Breakfast Paladin fantasy. So. I think this is a really good card.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing. I forgot to mention, I played a Swarm Zoo list that runs the Scarab Eggs. It runs. There's something else that creates tokens. I can't think of what it is, but it also runs Lost Spirit. I'll give you 50 brownie points if you remember what that card is.
That's the Death Rattle. Give all your minions +1 attack.
Yes.
Or is it just one random minion, one or the other?
No, it's all friendly minions +1 attack, and it's a 2-mana 1/1. But the crazy combo with that is that you play it and then Grim Rally it to give all of your minions +2/+1, which is a lot of damage if you've got a very wide board. And if that deck has taught me anything recently, it's that as long as Grim Rally's around, eggs are fine. Like, and yeah, this 3/4, I don't care that it has 1 less attack. Nerubian Egg and Devilsaur Egg taught us that these things are really powerful. So I really think that this is just as strong as those things, and it's going to see a lot of play in Zoo decks that have some way to kill it immediately, or in Paladin decks that just buff it and then get a free good minion out of it too.
And then make a copy of it with Reborn.
Why not?
Or not with Reborn. You just make a copy of it. I don't know why I think that gives you a Reborn. Yeah, with the quest. Yes.
Yeah, the 2/2, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is easily at least a 4.
I would go 4 or 5.
I feel it's probably a 4 just because it's going to be useful, but it's not, like, we need support, right?
It's not a Nerubian egg, but it's like, I don't think it needs to be a Nerubian egg to be...
We're not, but we're also calling it like a 5 archetype defining, right? Which this isn't.
Yeah. In Arena,
yeah.
It depends on if you have the stuff. I'd say it's probably a 2 at the best. Maybe
yeah,
even
I think
a
1. So. Yeah, the eggs in Arena generally are not as good in Arena because they're harder to kill. They're mostly AoE protection more than anything else.
And for that reason, it's okay, but you're not really going to want to choose this unless it's up against some other bad stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, next one here.
Oh, is it? Oh, it's yours.
This one's mine. Okay. Yeah, Bug Collector is a 2-mana 2/1 battle cry. Summon a 1/1 Locust with Rush. It's okay. I wish they both had Rush. If they both had Rush, that'd probably be too good. This is like Henge Clan Hogsteed. It's just split up a little bit differently.
Yeah.
The nice thing about this, especially for token decks, is that you're immediately proactive, right? A lot of those token decks have been running Henge Clan Hogsteed, but you get in some weird places where your token's going to die, so you don't want to buff it yet. You kind of want to wait until the next turn. So with this, at least, you're definitely getting stuff, both of them on the board at once. One of them, at least, is proactive. If you get any buff off it, great. Maybe you just need to take care of something small on the other side. So I think it's a fine card. It's just nothing flashy.
Yeah, I mean, I keep thinking back to Whirly Glider, which is kind of similar, but it fell out just because the other more synergistic cards were more what that deck was looking for. Like maybe in Quest Hunter you're looking for this, but it's not like you're not playing this in like a normal Beast Hunter because Master's Call is a card.
Yeah.
So it's probably a 2. I think it's fine, but I don't see the team playing constructed very much.
No, in the token decks though, it's going to be fine. Like, I think it's a 3 in those decks, just fine.
I mean, in the token decks, you have cards that summon three minions for,
at 2 mana?
At once, rather 2. No, well, 3 mana, but...
This isn't competing against those cards, then. It's competing against...
I mean, Dreamway Guardians it is.
Yes.
I don't know.
I think if they're running Henge Clan Hogsteed, then they're going to at least consider putting this in instead of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of them aren't, though. I mean, they're running Henge Clan Hogsteed because they want to do 2 damage to something.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I'll put it at
this
a 2.
Only does 1
in
damage,
Arena,
so
it's
I think
a 3,
it's a 2.
though, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So Candle Taker is a 3 mana 3/2 with Reborn. Seems fine. I mean, if you want Reborn minions, this is a cromulent 3/2 Reborn minion.
Yeah.
It's nothing fancy. It's low health, so it'll die, but that's okay.
Harvest Golem is a 2/3 that summons a 2/1. Yeah. This is a 3/2 that summons a 3/1. So
I mean, Harvest Golem only sees play because it's a mech. To be fair.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. So I think no higher than a 2 on this though, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and it's probably a 3 in Arena. I would say.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Golden Scarab is a 3 mana 2/2 beast. Battlecry, discover a 4-cost card. Jeweled Scarab in League of Explorers was a pretty strong card, and it saw a lot of play. If you can evolve this, if you can buff it, then it's great. And just the fact that it replaces itself. I mean, it's an statted, card on the play, but my experience with Jeweled Scarab was that you almost always got something worth it on the next turn, especially like in Reno decks or something like that. It's very strong for Arena, and in Standard, I don't know why you play it. I guess maybe in a Battlecry deck, but
you play it in a Highlander deck, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to fill a slot.
Yeah. The Battlecry Shaman deck maybe just because but the fact that it's so across the board what it could be, you'd rather have it generate something that like a Novice Engineer or something like that. So.
Yeah, don't we have something in one of the other classes that we didn't talk about that has some synergy? Like whenever you discover a card, like do a thing. There probably is. That might be relevant.
We'll have to get to it on the next episode.
Yeah, we'll probably we'll put a fork in that and come back to it. But
I think it's no less than a 3 though for sure.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And in Arena, it's a 3 also. Maybe a 3 with upside.
Okay. And then the last one that we have of the commons is Desert Hare, which is a 3-mana 1/1 battle cry summon 2 1/1 Desert Hares. So, you get 3 1/1s in if you want, in a token deck. This is fine. I mean, if you are a Master's Call deck and you want token things, then this still fits in there. You can use this in Quest Hunter. I mean, there are places to use it. It's not exciting, but if you have a need for 3 1/1s,
yeah,
this gets you 3 1/1s.
It's a question: are you playing this or Microtech Controller right now? And the fact that you have a 2/1 token, I mean, like the mech token paladins aren't magnetizing anything, so they don't really care about the mech tag. It's just that it's getting more minions, and that's better statted. So,
well, they care about the mech tag because Dinomatic is a card. Really, that's the reason.
Oh,
they care
that
about
too.
the mech
Yeah,
tag.
no, you're right. So unless there's a way you can take advantage of the beast, I don't know why you're playing this right now, but it's fine. I
mean, why not both, right?
Yeah.
Like, you may run both. Like, that's not. I mean, you're running.
It's true.
You're running stuff like Explodinator right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that Explodinator is a bad card. I don't know that it necessarily falls out, but it's still a 4-mana card. Maybe you want to go a little bit faster. I don't know. I think there's reasons for it. I could see it. I'm not excited about it, but I think because I want to use the word fine, then it's probably a 3.
Always. And in Arena, I don't know. I'm like, it's a 2 or a 3 because the fact that they're just little dinky 1/1s, like, they might be okay.
But die to pings.
Yeah.
They die to pings. That's the problem.
I'd probably
I think that
go
makes
2.
it a 2.
Yeah. That's fair.
Like, it is 3 of them, but they still die to pings, and they get traded off easily. All right. I think
we've made our way through most of them, but there's one card that we intentionally skipped because, Steve, I know that you've been dying to talk about this card, and if you're dying to talk about a card on the Happy Hearthstone podcast, you really have to give it its due coming. So, what do you say to welcoming in this with a little tune?
Well, you know what happens when you're dying to talk about a card. You know what you need. You need some killers.
Let's go.
Breaking my back just to win this game. 17 turns and my targets just can't aim. I'm breaking my back just to win this game, but legend ain't close in metas like this. Anything goes, but don't blink, you might miss. 'Cause legend ain't close in metas like this. I said, oh, legend ain't close in metas like this. Cast that big spell tonight. Never thought random targets would feel so right. But somebody told me that you had a pilgrim who looked like a turtle that I had in February of last year. It's not confidential, it's got potential. So
very nice, my friend.
So, and that kind of an intro could only be for a card that is worthy of that, which is the better version, a good version of one of my favorite cards of all time that should not be my favorite card of all time, which is Tortolan Primalist, which is the card that I infamously went all in on
You
our
really
first
did.
one of these.
Yep.
And fell on my backside hard. And finally, he is getting his due because we have Tortolan Pilgrim, which is an 8-mana 5/5 with a battle cry. Discover a copy of a spell in your deck and cast it with random targets. So Tortolan Primalist was just discover a spell and cast it with random targets.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with that is that there's a lot of spells and a lot of them are bad. And I kept picking that in Arena and pyroblasting myself in the face despite there being 6 minions on board. The difference is that this says a spell in your deck. So it is a mage minion. We should specify.
Epic.
Because we were talking about arena commons before, but so this is a mage epic, 8 mana 5/5. And the difference between spell in your deck and just spell is that you get to control what the options are. And that is a huge big deal. And like if you look at just what Freeze Mage runs right now, right? Like if you just look at whatever like the latest version of Freeze Mage is, like there are I think like 5 or 6 spells in that deck, and only 2 of them have targets, right? Like you run like Ray of Frost, Frostbolt are the 2 that are targeted, and then you have or I guess you have 3 because you have Conjurer's Calling, but not all of them even run Frostbolt. And then you have Arcane Intellect, you have Frost Nova, and you have Blizzard, you have Pocket Galaxy, and you'll probably run Puzzle Box, right? So as long as you only run 2 spells that are targeted, then you will always get one that you can cast safely. Now, you may not necessarily want that effect that moment, but at least you won't be pyroblasting yourself in the face. And I think that's kind of the difference, is that you can control what you have in there. Like this is 8 mana guarantee that you can get Pocket Galaxy to go off in a reasonable amount of time, or 8 mana Praise Yogg. Like, and either one of those is valid, right? Yeah. So, and you know, I mean, worst case scenario is you draw all those spells and you just have like Ray of Frost and Frostbolt, and maybe a Frostbolt itself. Who knows? Yeah. But I think that this card is a lot stronger than a lot of people think it is, and I say that knowing how far I fell on my butt with the original. Sure. But the fact that you can control the spells, and you don't even have to limit yourself to 3. You can run 4 or 5 as long as only 2 of them are targeted. And even then, it's not the worst thing in the world if you get 3 that are targeting themselves. It'll happen sometimes, but it's really, really strong. And the fact that you get to basically Shadow Visions that card. Like, you're not taking it out of your deck. Like, for Pocket Galaxy, it's probably a net negative, because you would want it to come out of your deck because you're never going to cast it the second time. But for something like a Puzzle Box, like, okay, well, now I just Puzzle Box and I can Puzzle Box again. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. My argument was going to be around Shadow Visions, but you just brought that up. So I'm just going to say that you are making a much safer choice than before, I think. Yes. Before it was hoping things would work out. Now this card can, constructing the deck with this card, you can guarantee that you're going to get something good off of it. And I think that we've already got some good stuff. I know I brought up Power of Creation before, but I'll bring it up again. That just creating stuff is pretty good and the hardest thing that this card is going to have on its play right now is the fact that Conjurer's Mage is just so good. So until that happens, this may not be in the meta necessarily, but I think that the deck is going to be really strong, and this is going to be a core piece for sure of that. So
I mean, Freeze Mage is a meta deck right now. Like it's a slightly different.
It's a slower Conjurer's build, right?
It's basically a variant of Cyclone Mage that runs more freezes and less cyclones. That's all it is. But it's doing basically the same things. And like if you have an empty board, you can just play Conjurer's Calling and have it target this.
Yeah.
And then you get 2 8-drops.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good. So I mean, if Freeze Mage is a thing, which I think it will be because it already is, then this will be part of it. I can't see it not being. I mean, I guess I can see it not being, but I think there's probably a couple minions that you might want to cut to make room for it, and to be able to get so even just like I can get a Blizzard now, I can get an extra freeze in a Freeze Mage, like that's pretty good.
Yeah. I think that the deck that wants it, it's just a no-brainer. So it's definitely a 5.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, in Arena, it's probably a little bit more draft dependent. Like if you have the spells in your deck and you have it, you would probably want to draft this late. Like once you know what your deck is looking like. But if you have the spells in your deck to support it, you could probably get away with it. Otherwise, it's an 8 mana 5/5, which and that's going to probably pyroblast yourself in the face.
Sure.
And so that's probably closer to a 3. Yeah. But in constructed, like this is one of the non-priest cards I am most excited about. And it kills me to not be picking a priest card as the card of the week, but I think that this
This was
I
well
think the
worth it, I
problem with
think.
priests is that there's so many that I couldn't pick one. So
Yeah.
I'm letting all of my children be equal, and I'm going with a
There
mage
you
card.
go. That's smart, so that the priest cards don't hate you after we do our review next week.
No, we're going to be spending a lot of time together next week.
Yes.
And so we need to all get along.
Oh, man. And we've got plenty of cards to go through there as well.
Yeah.
So, man, well, what a journey we've been on through the League of Explorers cards. I think that, there's just a lot of reason to be excited about this set. Obviously, we're always excited about new set, new cards, and all of that. This one is so interesting, and I think that, the team, I talked about a couple episodes ago, the Hearthstone team has been through so many iterations of changing as far as people that are there and strategies that they're going to do. This feels like maybe this is the first time that they've truly been able to do everything that they wanted to do in a set since all of that. And if this is a sign of the future, I'm really, really excited, honestly, as to what's to come.
Yeah, and I think that, the difference between like this set and like the last two middle sets is that it doesn't feel like there's so much overpowered stuff in the meta that we're going to get a whole bunch of toys and not be able to play with them. Like that was the problem with both Knights of the Frozen Throne and with Boomsday before nerfs came down. Especially like Knights of the Frozen Throne, they just gave so much stuff to Druid that Druid just became oppressive, and they had to do. Then the Giggling Inventor thing was an issue with Boomsday. It doesn't feel like we have that dynamic going into the set. It feels like there are powerful decks in the format, Warrior obviously, but I feel like it's not so powerful that these things aren't going to have an impact, and that's what's important when you're getting a set like this.
Yeah. So this will be good. Of course, we've got another half of the cards to go through. So next week we'll be looking at the League of Evils cards. We haven't even touched Plagues yet, so definitely stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, as we wrap up this show so that hopefully I can get Steve to bed before it's the next day, I just want to remind you, as always, that you're the Happy Hearthstone. I'm so thankful to be able to spend all of this time with you, regardless of whether you listen to this in one sitting. For those who stuck with us, there's several who have been in the Twitch chat through the entire live recording of this episode. So thank you to each of you for joining us for this special Twitch event. At least a special Twitch event for us. Thanks for being with us. And thank you so much for those of you who are, regular listeners. You support on Patreon. No matter what the case, this show is all about all of us who are part of this community and all of us just bonding together in different ways through the Discord, Twitter, and everything else. So thank you for being a part of things. And I have to send a very special thank you, as always, to the producers of the Happy Hearthstone, Menok, KJ Miller. Excuse me, I gotta say your name right, KJ Miller. Man, Brian O, and our brand new producer of the show, Mr. Blurry. Thank you so much for supporting the show at the level that you do. It really, I don't take it for granted how much you believe in the show, you believe in me, and I know that you especially look forward to these episodes. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for making it happen, and for being such good friends through all of this. So I'll breeze through the other ways to just connect with the show. If you want to check out the Discord, go to thehappyhearthstone.com/Discord and click on the link there. You can find the show notes, including all of the reviews we gave these cards, links directly to them at thehappyhearthstone.com. You can find my Twitch, twitch.tv/AndrewIsLiving, and on Twitter under the same moniker. If you'd like to email me, if you'd like to be on a future episode, or if you have thoughts, questions, ideas for future episodes, you can send all those at thehappyhearthstone@gmail.com. And I think that's everything. The Patreon is patreon.com/thehappyhearthstone as well. Steve, until we get the deep dive into the priest cards, how can we hear or see what you're tinkering with and everything in between?
Yep. So you can follow me on Twitter at WickedGood. That'll be the way that you get everything that I'm doing. Everything that I do is on offcurve.com. Podcasts, dashboards, links to my Twitch and my Discord as well. I should be streaming Tuesday night to open packs. Usually my wife Maureen and I will open up both of our packs on stream on that Tuesday night. So usually that's around somewhere between like 8 and 9 Eastern. So, please, you can come in and hang out with that. My Twitch is, you can just twitch.offcurve.com or twitch.tv/WickedGoodFM. Or if you happen to be in the stream right now, you can just click on my name and follow there. And there's probably some other things that I'm forgetting, but it's close to midnight, so I will leave it there.
This is the downside of recording in depth. So, I'm thinking, Steve, while we're here at Uldum, maybe we can see the sites. I'm sure if we just check out the obelisks and stuff, nothing crazy could happen, right? I know there are signs saying don't touch anything, but I'm thinking what the heck? Come on, we're only here once, right?
I mean, my main concern is if we keep talking, the sun's going to come up, and we don't want to be here in the desert when that happens.
No, I don't think so. Well, we'll find a place to hang out or something like that. But man, thank you so much. I can't wait to try out these cards, and by next time we will have had some experience with them. So it'll be exciting to see what comes from the new set and everything. Thanks for being my confidant for this wild ride, my friend.
I mean, it is my pleasure and my honor and my privilege, so I am happy to do it. So there is no one, I say this every time, there are very few people who I would record a 3-hour podcast with and then sign up to do it more than once. So
we're going on, I guess this is the 8th one, actually, that we've done.
We're almost through our 3rd full rotation.
Oh, buddy.
So, yeah.
Let's keep it up. Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you so much for visiting the Happy Hearthstone and having a little fun with us. I'll see you next time.
Bye.
All right.
Okay, we did it. I'm pressing stop on the recording. And I will throw that into Dropbox for you immediately and then leave my computer plugged in through the Ethernet so that you can get that ASAP. And because I do not need to take my computer anywhere because I need to go to bed.
Yeah, you really do. For those who are asking, I'm sorry, I meant to say it on the show too, but hopefully we will get to live stream this again next week. Steve and I are always bad about planning out too far ahead because this is enough on its own. So we'll take 24 hours to get our minds and hearts back together, and then we'll figure out a time, and we'll let you all know on Twitter as soon as we possibly can. But whoops. I pulled up Twitch and it brought up Twitch Sings, and somebody was not singing very well.
You are not allowed to say whoops right after we've pressed stop on the recording.
Oh no! Oh gosh, yeah, that would be very bad. Well, the good news is at least we got the backup on Twitch. But I was trying to find somebody to host because we don't normally do this kind of thing. But but you can head out, Steve. I know you gotta.
Okay. So just so you know, I'm putting both pieces of audio in the same folder that the cards were in.
Okay. Perfect.
In the root of it. So you have that link so you can just find it. And I will leave that there so it uploads.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you.
Yep.
Get some
have
sleep.
A good night. Good night.
And happy anniversary. Have an awesome weekend.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hope to. All right.
All right.
See you, man. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for hanging out.
Bye. Okay. There we go. All right, so thank you again so much, everyone, for being here. I just wanted to find somebody to send love over to. Not too many people streaming Hearthstone this late. I guess there are some people who are checking out new cards and stuff, so that's cool. If you have any suggestions, I'm open to it also. But I'll find it real quick and I'll head out as well. It's not nearly as late for me as it is for Steve, but it's still late. So. Hoppa Bear, she on? I mean, especially for an arena fan. Okay. Yeah, I'm down with that. Good suggestion, Steven Sensei. Okay. Well, thank you all so much again. Really, really fun. I'm glad we got to do this on Twitch. And sincerely, many of you were here the entire time. You guys are awesome. So thank you so much. Have an amazing night. I'll get the word out on Twitter, twitter.com/AndrewIsLiving, about when we'll do it next. You sleep well too, Steven Sensei. I'll see you all soon. Bye.